In the major media reports the next day, most of them uploaded Sugu's college entrance examination video on their respective accounts. Then, in the form of a statement, I told the matter in detail, without adding any exaggeration or adding my own comments. It is very rare for all media to have a tacit understanding and comment on an event in an extremely fair manner. But if you think about the nature of this matter, you can understand it immediately. If something like a mistake in the college entrance examination almost resulted in an accident, it would be fine if I just caught the wind and wrote some eye-catching junk news. Now that this matter has been exposed and the evidence is conclusive, how could these people dare to write nonsense? After you write it down, is this ultimately the responsibility of the military department or the Ministry of Education? You dare to talk nonsense, do you want to be fooled? After these tongues that controlled public opinion had no way to smear him, the video of the college entrance examination spread quickly on the internet, and Sugu's reputation quickly began to recover. Everyone's eyes widened when they saw the video of Sugu using his own strength to cross the border and kill the enemy. The accounts that had been ridiculing Su Ji-yu on the internet a day ago all shut up, and the people of Hangzhou who had been disgusted by this incident for so long were finally relieved. Where are those people you have been calling on the internet before? Call one more, they have crossed a great level and killed foreigners. Can you tell me how many points should be given to students who have done such a feat? There was a conspiracy theory a few days ago, saying that Sugu was sent by a certain family to disrupt the order of the college entrance examination. What happened? He came to help wipe the butt of those idiots who put warrior-level aliens into the examination room. The collision of forces in the video looked dangerous to me as a seeker. If Sugu hadn't killed Titan, something big would have happened. Now that the video has spread, the truth has been revealed. We in Hangzhou deserve to be the provincial champion. Just as people who had previously supported Sugu began to liquidate on the internet, Mayor Liu Chenghui was not idle either. He began to entrust professionals to make videos related to Sugu and publish them on the regional government account. The content of the video is that Sugu was in the third year of high school. Because his abilities did not meet the standards, he was assigned to the literary test class. As an orphan without any support, Sugu has been working hard to pursue martial arts for 3 years, never giving up on himself for a moment. And finally, despite the pressure from all parties in the school, he became the top pick in the martial arts examination. The editing of this video is very simple, nothing fancy and complicated. It is almost like a BGM and a simple text explanation on the college entrance examination video. But as soon as the 3-minute video was released, it broke the record of likes and retweets from official government accounts, reaching a full 300,000 likes and 100,000 retweets. It turns out that Sugu's starting point is the same as mine, or even lower. Looking at the video, someone murmured, "The rise of the common people is the most resonant and moving thing for individuals who are also ordinary people." When watching the BGM, when Sugu seemed to have overcome all odds and split the Star Titan in half with a knife, some people even shed tears of excitement. It doesn't work anymore, it started burning. After watching this video, I put on the gravity bracelet again. Please take a screenshot. The last sword shot by Sugu to kill the Titan in the video is so cool. I want to keep it as a screensaver to inspire myself. Same request, I declare that Sugu is the spiritual nitrogen pump for my practice during this period. Does anyone know if Sugu has a girlfriend? I want to compete? Leave the woman alone, the woman will affect the speed at which the man kills the aliens. At the same time, the admissions offices of those top universities were also busy because of Sugu's video. They were not that interested in those passionate videos about the rise of civilians, but they watched the original college entrance examination video repeatedly, and even used 32 times slow playback to analyze Sugu's moves. You see, this young man's skill with a spear actually blocked a Titan with such a low-quality weapon. I feel that his potential as a spear warrior is only one A-level combat skill compared to the mad fighting with a knife. If with A-level combat skills at his side, he might be able to penetrate the Titan directly with a gun. Have you not noticed the terrifying proficiency of his combat skills? The A-level combat skills used to kill Titans must have a mastery level of proficiency. And the other B-level and C-level combat skills used in battle, most of them have reached the mastery level. How on earth did he do it? I asked a friend who works in Hangzhou, and it is now being circulated that Sugu used 3 different weapons during the college entrance examination. His attainments in the assassin's way were also ridiculously high, And he did not look like a high school student at all. How could a high school student become so proficient in using 3 completely different weapons in 3 years? Someone murmured. Many seniors are not as proficient in combat skills as him. At this moment, the issue of Sugu's superpower is no longer important. The most important thing for a warrior is combat ability. When you can crush other people at will, who cares what your superpower is? Hurry up and recruit people, use S level. No, make an exception for this student and use SSS level resources to carry out special recruitment on him. Someone suddenly shouted. That's right. Now hurry up and go to Hangzhou to conduct special recruitment for Sugu. We must let him enter our school. I heard that people from Star Martial Arts University have already made some moves. Oh my god, those grandsons are so fast. Suddenly, the admissions offices of all top universities were swarming. Zheng family, Zheng Lu watched the news of the past 2 days, and became more and more upset. He smashed the projection screen in his hand. Trash, they are all a bunch of F***king trash. They took labor money and ended up like this. Then, his eyes became even more sinister. Sugu, right? You'd better pray that your university and I don't want to be the same school. At this moment, Sugu has been in seclusion at home for 3 days. He sat upright on the futon, obviously not making any movement, but it seemed that he could feel the tremendous power in his relaxed muscles. Sugu guided the Tian Yuan Gong to circulate around the sky in his body, tapping into the mysterious soul power contained in the flesh and blood cells. Suddenly, he opened his eyes suddenly, and a powerful force burst out from his body, directly tearing the black military uniform he was wearing. The weapons hanging on the weapons rack in his home were motionless in the wind, as if they were cheering for joy. Sugu took a deep breath, exhaled it slowly, and stood up from the futon. At this moment, he has entered the realm of seeking me. Is this the state of seeking me? Sugu felt the power surging in his body. Although there are a large number of public research reports on this realm on the internet, some things can only be understood if you truly have soul power and step into this realm. At this moment, he seemed to be able to re-examine the word martial arts from a broader perspective. Human soul power is not the water in the faucet. As long as it is turned on, it will flow out at a constant speed. Its output frequency and intensity are more like an electrocardiogram, with peaks and troughs. This kind of fluctuation in power output will be determined according to the martial arts profession. Differences include different techniques, different people, and even different weapons in their hands. The most typical examples are the most common professions. A warrior's fluctuations are the most balanced, and his soul power output is generally the most stable. The assassin is the most changeable. 1 second his wave image may be crawling on the ground like a caterpillar, and the next second he may be jumping up like a ferocious cobra. Most long-range players need to superimpose their soul power on the weapon at a high frequency in order to deal high damage, so the frequency of peaks and troughs in the wave chart is the highest. The peak of the heavy soul power fluctuation is generally the highest among the major professions. But at the same time, the output fluctuation of this profession will not change much, and there are very few places that can be changed. As Sugu spoke, he used the Tian Yuan Gong he mastered to simulate the soul power fluctuations of several major professions. Each profession was simulated in his hands. The reason why he is able to do this is not only because Tian Yuan Gong is extremely malleable, but more importantly, Su Jiyu has accumulated a lot of experience over the years, which makes him familiar with all professions. Kung Fu determines the upper limit of a warrior's output, just like the weapons held by ordinary people. It is difficult to defeat someone with a knife than a gun. And this Tian Yuan Gong can be used by any profession, but it is just like that for any profession. It is more like an enlightenment technique to help people further understand the attributes of professions. No wonder this thing is from China and is called a transitional technique. Sugu said calmly. Then he felt a slight headache. Climbing the path of martial arts with this technique in his hand, compared with the top techniques, was like climbing a ladder and riding a rocket. Tian Yuan Gong cannot meet Sugu's needs in any case, and the method must be changed. But if he changes to other techniques, the path of martial arts will be completely determined. But the things in Suguhui are sophisticated and complex. If he chooses other techniques, he is destined to give up some things. He really doesn't know what to choose. Forget it, I don't want to think about it anymore. According to the previous agreement, when I break through the barrier, I will go to the virtual spirit world with Ma Mingjia. Sugu's eyes were full of fire as he held the X device. Having just broken through, he desperately wanted to find someone to challenge him to and verify what he had learned. The martial arts dojo in the virtual spiritual world allows unlimited fighting with consciousness, which perfectly meets Sugu's needs. When the call was connected, Ma Mingjia squirted out the water he was drinking after learning that Sugu had entered the realm of seeking me. Damn it! You broke through the realm in 3 days? Sugu, are you the illegitimate son of a free realm master who can stay in our Hangzhou city? I have never heard of anyone breaking through the realm at such a speed in my life. Stop being so nagging, hurry up and register an account. We agreed to explore the virtual spiritual world together. I've already gone for a walk in the spirit world, but you're too slow. Didn't you make an agreement with Turtle Sun to come together? Who told you to be too slow? I've signed up and will be waiting for you in the spirit world. Register quickly. After Sugu hung up the phone, he quickly found a seat at home and sat down, then put the X device on his head. When all the biological information was collected and it was confirmed that the current user was a human, Sugu felt his eyes go dark and everything in his home disappeared. Then Sugu felt a lightness in his body. At some point, the X device on his head had been taken off, and he stood up. At this moment, he was floating in the center of a cube space that was black on top and white on the bottom. This floating feeling seemed to be in a gravityless universe. Sugu tried to move his body at will, but it was no different from usual, and he didn't notice any abnormalities. Even the exercises could run as usual. Is this the state of consciousness? There is a legendary out-of-body feeling, but there are some differences. At this moment, a voice seemed to come from outside the black and white space. You are using a brand new device to enter the virtual spirit world, and now there are some basic issues that you need to set up yourself. What followed was a screen of light flashing with blue light that slowly unfolded in front of Sugu. Do you want to hide your appearance? Close black lens bracket without any hesitation. Sugu immediately chose, yes. As long as you have an X device, you can log into the virtual spiritual world. It is too mixed up here, and he does not want to expose his true appearance and affect his personal life. The light screen quickly turned into a mirror, and a poker face without any distinguishing features was automatically generated on Sugu's face. Please decide your own name in the virtual spirit world. Close black lens bracket. The mirror becomes an input field again. Sugu thought for a while and wrote 4 words in the input field. Almighty God of War. When he confirmed the ID again, the black and white cube space dissipated, gravity returned, and Sugu fell to the ground again. A whole new world unfolded before his eyes. Chinese-styled temples are placed next to Gothic buildings, and modern high-rise buildings reach the sky next to otherworldly fantasy buildings. People of different skin colors emerge on the strange streets. They wear various costumes and have different beliefs. Asians, Americans, Earthlings, Moonmen, and Martians are constantly intersecting here to form a flow of people. Completely different civilizations are mixed here, creating a different kind of human fireworks that is impossible to appear in reality. This is the virtual spiritual world. Although the scenery was amazing, Sugu didn't really have the heart to appreciate it. He came here for the martial arts dojo. After adding Ma Mingji's ID, Universe Rich, as a friend, the two shared their location and found each other quickly. Ma Mingjia looked at Sugu's ID and complained speechlessly. Almighty martial god, do you really dare to use this name? You will be beaten for being so arrogant. It doesn't matter, I came here to fight, Sugu said enthusiastically. The identity in the virtual spirit world was given to him by himself, and such an arrogant name could attract hatred on its own, which Sugu liked very much. Okay, I know you are a martial artist. Let's go to the martial arts dojo right away. The martial arts dojo is in the operation interface that comes with the virtual spirit world. You can directly enter it by clicking on it. The figures of the two disappeared in an instant. The people around them seemed to be accustomed to such a scene, and they were all minding their own business without raising their eyes. The figures of Sugu and Ma Mingjia appeared at the entrance of a huge open-air arena. Brother, come on, I'll cheer you on from the stands. After Ma Mingjia said this, he trotted to the audience stage. He is a businessman, not a martial artist. If it weren't for Sugu, he might never have come to this martial arts dojo in his life. Sugu was walking towards the arena. The moment he stepped into the arena, the free match began. Next, he will randomly match opponents with corresponding winning streaks. Brother Su, no one will watch the battles of our cannon fodder rank. It will be difficult for you to match up with decent opponents before you get a winning streak. Don't be nervous and just play as you please, Ma Mingjie said loudly in the audience. Anyway, under the protection of the heroic spirits of human beings in the virtual spirit world, the conscious body will not die, so the contests in the martial arts dojo are often life and death battles. Watching a fight to the death between warriors is a fatal attraction for ordinary people. Cannon fodder, brave, elite, palace. This kind of rank divides the strong people in the martial arts dojo. Each time you advance to a level, it will attract more people to watch at the same time. A duel between brave warriors will attract tens of thousands of people to watch online at the same time. The number of views of the subsequent video can easily reach hundreds of thousands. If you are lucky enough to have a high-level duel, it can be viewed by millions. And if it is an elite level, the number of viewers can easily fill this open-air arena, and there will be a large number of viewers watching the live broadcast. If you meet a popular player, there will even be professional commentators to provide on-site commentary. As for the palace, people of this level generally know each other and rarely fight against each other. Even if there is a fight, it will usually be set as a private battlefield and will not be played in public. When Su Jiyu first arrived, he was naturally the cannon fodder. He has been matched for so long, and it speaks volumes that Ma Mingjie is the only spectator in the Nuada viewing stand. On the platform of martial arts dojo, no one cares about him or his ID. But it doesn't matter these Sugu, as long as the opponent is decent. Soon, the match is completed, the opponent is coming. A flamboyant man with a coxcomb haircut and a military uniform with a lot of glitter sewn on it, appearing on the ring in a Superman-like manner. The glitter on his body seemed to have a radiant special effect under the illumination of the light source. The moment he entered the arena, people began to pour into the stands of the martial arts dojo, and people sat down next to Ma Mingjie one after another. The entire arena was filled with tens of thousands more people in an instant. Naturally, these people couldn't come for Sugu, who was playing for the first time, so they could only come to watch his opponent's battle. Ma Mingjie opens his mouth so much that he can attract tens of thousands of people to watch him as soon as he appears. Is this man with an exaggerated appearance and his ID named Sexy Assassin, a master? Isn't it right? Brother Su's first time was so unlucky? Ma Mingjie murmured. My dear family, I miss you so much, do you miss me? Moi. After the coxcomb-headed man with the ID of coquettish assassin entered the venue, he ignored Sugu at all. Instead, he shouted loudly in the direction of the audience, speaking while making extremely enchanting body movements. To this, the audience at the scene responded quickly. Go away, you damn faggot, isn't that disgusting? You haven't been beaten to death offline yet, Cao Sai. How many people have already said they're coming to testify against you? Holy shit, this pervert just blew a kiss in my direction. I feel like I won't be able to eat in the next few days. Seeing the intimate interaction between the combatants participating in the battle and the audience in the auditorium, Ma Mingjie was stunned. Who is this? Seeing his confused expression, the people next to him gave him some information. This coquettish assassin is a self-media anchor. After fighting in the virtual spiritual realm, he will record his sexy actions into videos and make a living from the views. We can be considered his fans. After hearing this, Ma Mingjie was stunned for a moment, his face twitched and he said, is there any warrior still doing this? It's not like everyone can become a powerful warrior who can ignite the soul fire. It's not like a small person can make money and eat. The man then said to him, don't look at this guy like this. He has reached the level of a brave man before. But later he got older and was forced to retire. Otherwise, the idea of coquettish assassin would not be able to accumulate so much fan. Now, in order to be able to perform attractive and cool moves in every battle, every time he fights, he will choose the opponent. When he encounters a strong person, he will immediately admit defeat and only fight against those weaker than himself. So although he has good strength, his record in the cannon fodder level is a mess. He can often match the novices who have just entered the martial arts dojo. He can be regarded as a relatively famous newcomer killer. Ma Mingjie saw that the man on the field had no intention of admitting defeat directly, and said angrily, what? He thinks he can handle his opponent this time. The people around him said with a smile, didn't you see that almighty martial god is still studying the weapon selection system of the martial arts dojo? At first glance, He looks like a newcomer who has just registered an account. He will be in trouble. Ma Mingjie focused his attention on the arena again. At this moment, Sugu was lowering his head and looking at the rows of weapons that appeared on the light screen. In the martial arts dojo, a variety of weapons that actually exist in reality can be generated for free for people to choose and use. This is also the reason why this place has become a sacred place for young human warriors to communicate and collide. At this moment, Sugu looked at the weapons on the light screen, his eyes extremely intense. A man's love for such destructive weapons is engraved in his genes, and this is especially true for Sugu. The Dragon Real-Line Suspended Laser Cannon is a heavy cannon that can only be used by long-range warriors with heavy armor. The power of that shot. Tisk tisk, a real man's choice. A dagger made from the teeth of a warrior-level poisonous howling Japanese snake, snake's bite, a favorite of assassins with powerful venom. The precious weapon of the soldiers in the army is a black gold sword of different blood forged from the flesh and blood of aliens in the starry sky. All kinds of rare weapons that can only be seen in the news are actually free for people to choose and use. Sugu feels like Grandma Lu entering the Grand View Garden. In high school, he used the cheapest training weapons that could not hurt anyone for self-training. It wasn't until the martial arts exam that he was willing to go to the martial arts gym for training and use a black gold weapon to chop up human steaks. This was because Ma Mingjie was flattered. Is it because Sugu is not greedy for these powerful weapons? No, simply because he is poor. I finally have the opportunity to fight with these weapons, which one should I choose? Sugu looked confused, and his appearance made Ma Mingjie, who had been watching, couldn't help but hold his forehead. Brother, you look like you are shopping in the supermarket, and you are confused whether to buy something you like or not. Why? You actually turned on the long-range weapon to look at it? Brother, you are a warrior. Based on your performance in the college entrance examination, you can just choose a knife and cut the opponent. This almighty martial god is in trouble. The coquettish assassin's self-media has not been updated for a week. He is frantically looking for materials. He finally met a stupid young man, and he cannot let it go easily. Do you remember that coquettish assassin had a video with over 600,000 views last year? He could have finished the opponent long ago, but he had to make crazy kites to disgust the opponent, show off his skills, and use a dagger without hurting the opponent. Cut out a dozen little love hearts on the opponent's uniform. I remember that at the end of the video, the long-range warrior was so disgusted that he swallowed a gun and committed suicide on the spot. Who do you think would be worse, this almighty martial god, or the long-range warrior that day? Come on, let's open the market. Ma Mingjie's face twitched when he heard these people arranging his brother's words. He looked at Sugu on the court and without any hesitation, he stood up and shouted. Come on, almighty martial god, kill this pervert. Although he and Sugu always quarreled, at this time when they agreed to speak to each other, they insisted on supporting each other as brothers. At this moment, Ma Mingjie became the center of attention in the audience. Some people secretly covered their mouths and smiled at him. The coquettish assassin acted a bit abstractly, but he was also really powerful. The only fan of this almighty god of war is going to be heartbroken today. Sugu sighed slightly at this time. With so many dazzling weapons, it was really difficult to choose. Fortunately, when he was looking through the weapons page, he found a good thing. At the bottom of the weapon selection page, there was a button for random weapons, and Sugu pressed it. The weapon selection light screen in front of him began to change. Rows of 3D pictures of weapons appeared and arranged to form a turntable. Then the turntable began to rotate faster and faster, turning into an afterimage. Random weapons. The coquettish assassin's body visibly stiffened. He stopped interacting with his fans and looked in the direction of Sugu with a strange expression on his face. Random weapons are a powerful tool for showing off and provoking in the martial arts dojo. The meaning is very simple. Even if I don't use my most comfortable weapon, if the system randomly gives me something, I can kill you. But most people who use this thing will also define a range for random weapons and then let the system be random. Otherwise, the following situation is very likely to occur. The weapons of long-range warriors and melee warriors are interchanged, and two clowns are added at once. The system reinstalls a dagger. What can the reinstaller do? Try using a dagger to see if you can scratch your own back. If you give an assassin a reloaded shield, are you going to let the assassin use the reloaded shield as a coffin board? The all-powerful god of martial arts in front of him is doing this kind of thing, conducting large-scale randomization without any professional restrictions. Super large-range random weapon? Damn, I can actually see an idiot using this in my lifetime. Today is really an eye-opener. The coquettish assassin has met an evenly matched opponent. At least in the abstract, these two are evenly matched. Where is that fan who shouted just now, "The almighty god of war? Do you know your idol is so naughty?" In addition to a group of people shouting excitedly at Sugu, there were also people whistling at Ma Mingjia. Ma Mingjia still maintained the same posture as before to cheer for Sugu, but after seeing Sugu's actions, he felt a congestion of blood rising from his lungs. Good, good, good. I just stood up to you in front of tens of thousands of people. Why are you so slutty? He greeted Sugu's ancestors over and over again in his heart, and at the same time he shouted in his heart, "Give my grandson a long sword, a spear, or a double dagger." Having witnessed Sugu's performance in the college entrance examination with his own eyes, Ma Mingjia believed that given him any of the three weapons, he could kill the pervert opposite him. The rotation of the weapon disc gradually stopped, and finally stopped on a thick shield that looked like a wall. Defensive heavy-duty classic weapon, iron wall shield. The shield, which was 2 meters long and as thick as a human head, materialized from the 3D phantom on the weapon selection interface and appeared in front of Sugu. Bump! The shield fell heavily to the ground, and the ground of the entire arena trembled. Along with this, Ma Mingji's little sweetheart trembled, and he collapsed in the audience with no love for his whole life. Good guy, Sugu's flexibility as an assassin and destructive power as a warrior are reversely blocked by this heavy shield with max defense power. This is going to be beaten with Jiba Mao. How about I withdraw first? It's all about embarrassment anyway. It's better for Sugu to embarrass himself alone than to embarrass both of them together. Ma Mingjia clicked the exit button of the virtual spiritual world, with an uncertain expression on his face. At the same time, the fans of Coquettish Assassin around him burst into cheers. It's actually Cao Cai's favorite heavy equipment. I can't wait to watch tonight's video. This guy is really the best that I haven't seen in decades. Slow down the assassination, we had to watch it slowly. Generally, heavy equipment is much less flexible than assassins. In a head-on collision, if the assassin is careful enough, he can play with the opponent at will. And Sugu's weapon is a heavy shield mainly for defense, which makes him a target. This is the favorite type of opponent for the coquettish assassin. The coquettish assassin smiled slightly and directly chose his favorite dagger, the Mercury blade. The gleaming silver dagger matched perfectly with his uniform sewn with glitter. Choose the battlefield. Brother, I will let you choose. This is another function of the martial arts dojo, which can simulate various environments experienced by humans. If they choose a suitable environment, those warriors whose abilities are their main means of combat can display abilities beyond their previous abilities. And if the environment is not suitable, the strength will be greatly reduced. For example, if you put a fire power user and a wind and snow power user on the ice and snow apocalyptic battlefield, the strength displayed by both parties will definitely be different from their usual performance. Choose a narrow terrain. If you hit us in a narrow terrain, you still have a chance. Ma Mingjia saw that the other party took the initiative to give his side the opportunity to choose the environment. He was excited and resurrected with full health, and shouted to Sugu. Sugu in the arena frowned slightly, and it was the most annoying multiple-choice question again. Do you need to care about things like the battlefield? What qualifications do warriors have to choose the battlefield? Sugu directly clicked on the random battlefield. Looking at Sugu's choice, the coquettish assassin narrowed his eyes slightly. How much the man in front of him looked down on himself. Acting on his own is a bit informal, but he is also a serious person who has been marked as a brave man. This idol of yours really has a personality. Even the other fans in the audience, who had been laughing with the coquettish assassin, were speechless and said to Ma Mingjia, "The first time I came to the martial arts dojo, I was so arrogant, like a fool. He deserved to meet Thorny." Ma Mingji's eyes were widened at this moment, watching Sugu gnashing his teeth. If he hadn't been able to defeat him, he would have really wanted to take the place of the coquettish assassin standing on the field and chew the almighty martial god alive. But even so, he still prayed silently that the system could provide a place where assassins could be restricted and suitable for heavy equipment. Soon, the venue was chosen. The ghost cave of the underworld. In the small, dark, and complex cave terrain, shrill cries will be heard every once in a while, as if ghosts with grievances are roaring here. Ma Mingji's whole body collapsed. Listen to the introduction, isn't this the home of the assassins? The battlefield was selected, and the environment where Sugu and the coquettish assassin were located, like the Colosseum in ancient Rome, began to change. The sunlight was blocked by the cold and damp rock walls, and the gray floor tiles underfoot turned into black moss-covered rocky ground, with groundwater seeping out between the rocks. Countless stalactite pillars fell from the sky, densely packed into a maze. One after another, strange wind sounds were blowing in this area, making sounds like the wails of evil ghosts. Sugu and the coquettish assassin stood on both sides of the ghost cave in the underworld, confronting each other. Sugu had already picked up the iron wall shield, and his effortless gesture was amazing. But the width of the shield is already wider than the gaps between many stone pillars in the terrain. There is no doubt that when fighting here, the flexibility of heavy equipment, which is already slow, will be further restricted. And this complex terrain is a paradise for assassins with changeable souls. Let heavy weapons and assassins fight in such a ghost place? How can we fight? Someone said doubtfully. Who told the all-powerful god of war on the opposite side to have to show off? The assassin gave the opponent the choice of the battlefield. And he also came to set up a random battlefield. Who can he blame now? The assassin who will be stabbed will have no limit in this environment. Kite. There's no place for him to cry. Someone shrugged helplessly and said. And I think he got the wrong ID. Almighty God of War? Almighty fool? Originally, there is a lack of material for pricks. This guy wants to provoke someone by poking his nose and face. I think someone is going to be in bad luck today. The chatter in the audience made Ma Mingjie sweat. He looked at Sugu on the field with a nervous expression on his face. If you can't help it, just throw away the shield. Playing with bare hands is better than carrying this cumbersome shield. At least the loss won't be too ugly. Ma Mingjie said secretly in his heart. Holding that 2-meter-high heavy shield, in this dark and small environment, it is simply a living target for assassins. It affects the performance too much. The environment has been transformed, and the life and death battle has begun. Sugu blocked the indestructible shield in front of him. He made the classic defensive move of heavy armor, but the huge shield blocked his view, making it all look a bit funny. The title of tonight's video is, Shocked. South Thorn actually did such an indescribable thing to the god of war. The coquettish assassin turned the dagger and said to Sugu with a smile. Then, his figure disappeared. Step, step, step. In the cave, his footsteps could be heard from all directions at the same time, but his sound could only be heard but his shape could not be seen. No matter which direction, the coquettish assassin could not be seen. The steps of a sea-level assassin, the shadowless step. And the proficiency is extremely high. Bump! The mercury blade collided with the iron wall shield, and a string of sparks flew everywhere. I actually managed to defend myself. It seems that you are an experienced old heavy equipment. The coquettish assassin praised as he saw his attack coming from the blind spot was blocked by the other party. Unfortunately, even if you are extremely lucky and the system gives you the martial arts weapon you are best at, the environment is not on your side. If you change to a more open environment, you might really be a threat to me, but here, you are just a target for me. At this point, Sugu was preparing to defend and counterattack, but the coquettish assassin stepped on the heavy shield and flew away instead. Then he used the shadowless step to cover his body, attacked again, and repeated the cycle. The mercury blade kept scratching on the iron wall shield, causing sparks to fly all over the shield. Look, brother martial god is suppressed and can't move now. This is not only because of the thorns, but also because of the surrounding stone pillars. If you move randomly and let the stone pillar get stuck in the position of the heavy shield, even if there is a slight flaw, South Thorn will definitely seal the throat with a knife. This is now Spur's favorite attacking rhythm. From the beginning to the end, the offensive initiative will always be in Spur's hands. He will slowly disgust and consume his opponent to death. This all-powerful god of war is now a fleshy pile with thicker health. The old audience members in the audience, who were familiar with the coquettish assassin routine, said calmly. After Ma Mingjie heard this, his hands sweated nervously. But he was also a little strange. What Sugu showed in the martial arts test was that his martial arts profession was not a warrior or an assassin. How come the reloaded weapon was so smooth in his hands? At least the coquettish assassin always had the initiative to attack, but he just couldn't take advantage of the almighty martial god. At this moment, the almighty martial god, who had been standing still and adapting to all changes with his unchanging attitude, suddenly moved. He took a step laterally, swinging the giant shield in his hand to the right. The coquettish assassin who was just about to attack paused slightly. The almighty martial god's movement this time happened to block his inevitable retreat after the next attack. If this attack still fails to work, the almighty martial god may catch the flaw. Is this a coincidence? Regardless of whether it was a coincidence or not, it didn't matter. Anyway, the rhythm of the attack was in my hands. At worst, I gave up this attack and looked for other opportunities. The coquettish martial god began to retreat, but at this time the almighty martial god moved again. He still only moved a small step, but the position he was stuck in made the coquettish assassin very uncomfortable and passive. The coquettish assassin vaguely sensed that something was wrong, and he began to move quickly, trying to pull away. The rhythm of his steps changed rapidly. He no longer used the shadowless step, a movement technique, but used several assassin steps that staggered back and forth. All of a sudden, the disturbing footsteps of the assassin sounded like falling raindrops throughout the ghost cave of the underworld. Compared to the coquettish assassin's weird movements, the almighty martial god is much calmer. He moves very slowly. But every step he takes, he will definitely get stuck in the most disgusting position of the coquettish assassin at the time. Every time he moves, the final result is that the opponent's space is further squeezed. While trying to break through with physical skills again and again, the coquettish assassin accidentally glanced at the almighty martial god behind the iron wall shield. There was no suppression of the opponent's excitement and joy, there was only peace in those eyes. Without any emotion, extremely quiet, but as if he had already seen through everything. Am I being completely seen through by a heavy loader? Cold sweat began to form on the coquettish assassin's face. The heavy shield that seemed so cumbersome to him just now was slowly but firmly being crushed in his direction. The 2-meter-high heavy shield brought about a terrifying sense of oppression, which made him almost breathless. Is this really a cannon fodder player who has just entered the martial arts dojo? Why do I feel like Cao Sai is being suppressed? Someone in the audience suddenly murmured. These people can't understand those delicate paces, but from a god's perspective, looking at the overall situation, they can easily find that the frequency of the coquettish assassin's attacks has been decreasing since the beginning. Moreover, the assassin's footsteps, which seemed to be everywhere at first, are now restricted to one place. Don't talk nonsense. How can Cao Sai overturn when he attacks a heavy defensive weapon? A senior fan said, but his tone was no longer the playful and calm tone at the beginning, and became a little nervous. Su, almighty martial god, come on, fight him to death. I have always believed in you. Ma Mingjia, who had been sitting slumped in the audience with a look of despair, saw the situation on the battlefield and was resurrected with full health. Now is the time to show off, which he is best at. I really don't believe it anymore. The coquettish assassin gritted his teeth and rushed towards Sugu. Continuing to be suppressed by the opponent is a slow death. Maybe the opponent is talented defensively, but not aggressive. Maybe I can break through if I pay a little price. Boom. When the assassin with the most changeable soul power lost the advantage of preemptive strikes and sneak attacks, he was forced to compete head-on with the heavy equipment with the highest peak soul power output. The outcome is already determined. Sugu swatted the coquettish assassin away like a fly. After breaking 3 stone pillars in a row, his body was printed on the wall at the edge of the battlefield before he could stop. The coquettish assassin slipped from the wall and vomited a large mouthful of blood. Silence. All the fans of the coquettish assassin in the audience fell into deathly silence. A newcomer who had just arrived at the martial arts dojo was beaten like a cannon fodder. It was the first time for them to see a coquettish assassin turn over a car like this. The almighty martial god, awesome. At this time, Ma Mingji's hoarse voice sounded again. Although there will be a vacuum layer between the arena and the auditorium for sound insulation, it is impossible for Sugu to hear his shouts. But at this time, I want to hit those people who looked down on their brothers during the fight hard in the face. In the Netherland Ghost Cave Arena, Sugu was still slowly approaching the coquettish assassin with a heavy shield. At this moment, the offensive and defensive momentum of both sides was completely reversed. The coquettish assassin's position had been suppressed in a small corner of the arena, and he could only be forced to have a head-on collision with Sugu. As an assassin, I have lost now, but now, I am not defeated yet. The coquettish assassin gritted his teeth and stood up. He didn't know why, but thinking about the other party's calm eyes, his desire to win as a warrior was aroused for a long time. Sea-level supernatural power, breeze protection. A trace of cyan wind lingered in front of him, further increasing the speed of the coquettish assassin. Then there is this combat skill. After studying it day and night, he has reached a level of perfect mastery. Sea-level combat skill Feng Wu Slash. It's the move that Cao Sai used to reach the brave level. An old fan exclaimed when he saw the coquettish assassin's moves. The faces of these people turned from nervous to relieved. Back when the coquettish assassin was still working hard in the brave division, he was once forced into this situation by a seasoned heavy armorer. But at that time, he used this move to cut the heavily armored soldier into pieces in a head-on confrontation. A powerful assassin knows not only sneak attacks, but also high explosive attacks at the risk of sacrificing everything in desperate situations. Blessed by supernatural powers, the coquettish assassin seemed to be wrapped in cyan armor at this moment. Sugu stopped advancing at this moment and looked at the other party with interest. Supernatural combat skills, Blue Dragon Wind Dance Slash. The coquettish assassin slashed towards Su Gufeng again. The two collided, and the raging slashes produced dazzling flames on the thick shields. The coquettish assassin collided with Sugu, and countless sparks burst out. The place where the two collided turned into a dazzling light that briefly deprived the audience of the auditorium from sight. The audience's eyes have not yet adapted to the dazzling light. The results of the martial arts dojo have come out. Winner. Almighty God of War. The sound of machinery echoed throughout the arena auditorium. The trick of being a prick is broken by the newcomer in the cannon fodder section in one glance? Upon hearing this, an old fan of the coquettish assassin stood up and said in disbelief. It's not like no one has cracked this trick of the coquettish assassin. But that was after the brave Duan won 3 consecutive games, and was specially studied to fight, and then it was cracked. What the coquettish assassin is fighting now is not the brave stage, this is the cannon fodder stage. Moreover, the opponent is still a newcomer who has just entered the cannon fodder level. Logically speaking, this move should be a special move that will kill him at first sight. How could it be cracked by someone just by looking at it? The light dissipates, these viewers refocused their attention on the live broadcast. The winner has been decided, and there will only be one person standing in the arena, and the loser's consciousness will be automatically cleared out of the virtual spiritual world. The figure standing in the ghost cave of the underworld was holding an exaggerated giant shield in his hand, with a smile on his face, as if he was enjoying and reminiscing about the battle just now. There wasn't even a scratch on his military uniform. From the beginning to the end, the coquettish assassin failed to cause any damage to the almighty martial god, not even his proud ultimate move. Obviously his height is not considered tall among top-heavy equipment, but this figure is infinitely taller in the eyes of the audience. At this moment, he seems to really live up to the 2 words in his ID, God of War. He actually cracked the coquettish assassin's trick in just one face-to-face encounter. The old fan murmured that he still couldn't accept it, but what he saw told him that this was the case. The winner is the almighty God of War. The coquettish assassin has started a live broadcast. He has started to review the battle live. In the audience, someone yelled, and then many people immediately left and began to watch their favorite anchor's review. However, before these people left, they all silently remembered the idea of almighty martial god in their hearts. In the coquettish assassin's live broadcast room, he has received a complete set of video materials of his battle with the almighty martial god. This is also the most praised function of the virtual spiritual world martial arts dojo. After every warrior is defeated, he can immediately review and improve. The coquettish assassin currently broadcasting on the live broadcast is no longer as flamboyant and frivolous as when he first met Su Ji. His eyes are extremely serious. Sirius didn't even say hello to the fans who poured into his live broadcast room. His fans are also quietly waiting for the results of the picture processing at this moment. When the scene was finally completed in slow motion, when all the movements of the almighty martial god and the coquettish assassin were shown in slow motion for clear comparison, These people realized how exaggerated this heavy equipment with the ID name Almighty Martial God was. Starting from the duel between the Almighty God of War and the coquettish assassin, every step he took had a very clear tactical purpose. Guide, restrict, oppress, induce choice. No matter how gorgeous the steps the coquettish assassin uses, no matter how complex the terrain is, the Almighty Martial God can let his body get stuck in the place that most affects the pace changes. The calm eyes behind the shield seemed to see through everything. There was no step or combat skill at his feet, but the audience felt a sense of returning to nature when they looked at it. The assassin who was supposed to dominate the rhythm of the battle was like a clumsy monkey imitating the dance of humans. The defensive heavy equipment that should have been turned into flesh and blood, like an unstoppable human chariot, keeps advancing. The coquettish assassin lit up a cigarette when he saw this. "Cao Sai, how did you lose the last move? I know now that the God of War is very powerful, but I still don't believe that even your famous stunts can't cause the slightest harm to the opponent." At this moment, some of his fans were still unwilling to give in and directly asked Rocket a question in the live broadcast room. As the anchor, the coquettish assassin was also very curious, and he had no impression of the last move. It seemed that he was gone all of a sudden. He dragged the progress bar to the position of the final duel, and his famous stunt, the self-created combat-skilled Qinglong Fengwu slash, struck the opponent's shield. Then in the middle of the skill, his dagger suddenly slipped, and then a big gap appeared in his whole body. Then the Almighty Martial God made a normal impact and crushed his head. "I lost the last blow because of my own big mistake?" The coquettish assassin frowned. A secret passage was impossible. He has used this trick countless times and it has been engraved in his bones. To say that he made a mistake in the last shot was even more difficult for him to accept than this defeat. Slower, watching it again. When the screen had slowed down enough to clearly see the movements of both parties, the coquettish assassin finally discovered something unusual. When the dagger collided with the heavy shield, the Almighty God of War did not simply hold the shield to defend. He deliberately controlled the tilt angle of the heavy shield to affect the path of the dagger. The first collision was like this, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time. It was clearly the coquettish assassin's ultimate killing move, but in the slow-motion demonstration, he seemed to have become a puppet controlled by the all-powerful God of War. Every time he swung the knife, he was getting closer to death. Until the path of the coquettish assassin's dagger was completely deflected, leaving a big gap in the move. The image of his head being easily crushed was played again, and the whole room was silent. In general, the word "beautiful" is rarely associated with heavy armed battles, but watching the battle of the Almighty Martial God and his exquisite control of the heavy shield in his hands, they felt a simple, heavy and shocking beauty. The coquettish assassin put out the lit cigarette butt and murmured something. In this battle, he didn't even use any combat skills or powers. Purely relying on skill, the heavy armor drove the assassin to death? This sentence caused the entire live broadcast room to remain silent. But the coquettish assassin's eyes suddenly became bright. Although this was a disastrous defeat, in the eyes of the Almighty Martial God, he did not see any humiliation to himself, a weakling and loser. In his eyes, there is only the purity of pursuing his personal martial arts path. Such purity rekindled the flame in his heart as a middle-aged warrior. Such a pure warrior should still be fighting in the martial arts dojo. The coquettish assassin said to himself extremely seriously, "I want to fight the Almighty Martial God again. This time I will challenge him as a challenger." Soon he edited a challenge letter and sent it to his opponent's mailbox, waiting for the Almighty Martial God's reply. Then, Almighty Martial God has been offline, coquettish assassin. Sugu took off the X-Device helmet and walked out of the virtual spiritual world. As soon as I came out, my phone kept ringing like a bomb. After Sugu connected, Ma Mingji's voice came out. "My idiot brother, you are so awesome. What kind of martial arts profession do you have? During the college entrance examination, weren't you still an assassin and a warrior? What happened to the heavy equipment today?" After hearing the other party ask about his martial arts profession, Sugu's face became entangled again. Why do I always encounter the multiple choice question he hates most today? After a while, he replied, "I don't know." Ma Mingjia was stunned. How could he know about this kind of thing? "Then why did you bring a dagger, a gun and a knife when you took the college entrance examination? Aren't you a warrior or an assassin? What happened to the heavy equipment today?" In the college entrance examination, I was pursuing the efficiency of killing aliens, which has nothing to do with the martial arts profession. I can't go killing aliens in the stars with a heavy shield that restricts my movement. Listening to the other party's confident answer, Ma Mingjie felt that it made sense for a moment. But then he reacted. Who is this person? Isn't the martial arts career determined from the beginning? Are there still people who haven't decided yet? Ma Mingjie was stunned for a moment, and suddenly remembered Sugu's random weapons in the martial arts arena. Could it be that Sugu could really achieve today's effect just by picking up any of the dozens of random weapons in the arena? Ma Mingjie shook his head hard, throwing such outrageous speculation out of his mind. But this guess cannot be shaken off. He couldn't help but think of the previous conversation where Sugu asked him for A-level combat skills. This guy can't really practice combat skills casually. Ma Mingjie murmured. At this moment, Sugu casually threw the phone aside and ended the call. He really wanted to continue matching challenges in the martial arts dojo, but his superpower reminded him that the technique he practiced, Tian Yuan Gong, had mutated. After the conscious body fought in the virtual spiritual world, you have a new understanding of martial arts. And with this insight, I completed Tian Yuan Gong. Complete one breath, Tian Yuan Gong, completion progress +1. Complete one breath, Tian Yuan Gong, completion progress +1. At this moment, Su Jiyu seemed to have countless martial arts inspirations bursting out in his mind. He began to follow the guidance of his own inspiration and seek some changes based on the Joshin operation of the original, Tian Yuan Gong, method. If you compare the weekly movement route of the exercise to a river leading to the ocean, the route of Tian Yuan Gong must have passed through all the beautiful scenic spots worthy of stopping on the way. But for every scenic spot, it just lingers at the entrance. No travelers can take a boat and swim in to enjoy the beautiful scenery by relying on the flowing water of Tian Yuan Gong. What Sugu is doing now is to forcefully create a tributary channel at the entrance of a certain scenic spot, and then introduce the flowing water in. Then we took a small boat and visited the scenic spots. If this matter spreads out, I am afraid that the top 10 aristocratic families in mankind will be interested in him, because this is really too outrageous. The modified Tian Yuan Gong will tap into the soul power in my flesh and blood cells more deeply. Although it's not as good as those top skills, if I can continue to improve this skill like I am today, can it really become a supreme magical skill that belongs exclusively to me? Sugu licked his lips, the fire of ambition flashing in his eyes. But it's too early to think about this now. The changes in his skills have caused his soul power fluctuations to become disordered. Sugu has to stay at home these days to adapt to the modified skills and fix his soul power problems. As for the idea that just popped up, Sugu suppressed it silently in his heart. Jingle bell bell, on the 4th day of retreat at home. A phone call found Sugu and interrupted his practice, because after the college entrance examination, many people still want to come to Sugu, and even company bosses want to find him as an endorsement. In order to prevent these mundane things from affecting his martial arts, Sugu simply changed his number. Knowing the new number, the person who called to find Sugu must have something important to do. When he answered the phone, it was the principal Lu Yuanmin. Sugu, come to school quickly. All the admissions teachers from the top universities are here to recruit you. Lu Yuanmin's voice was so excited that he was trembling. Even after being the principal for so many years, this was the first time that so many teachers from top martial arts universities came to their high school. Coming so soon? Sugu said, slightly surprised. He thought that because of the martial arts test incident a few days ago, these people would not come here for a few days. For the rest, we type slowly and say, "Where are you now? I will send a car to pick you up right away." My home. Okay. A teacher will come to your home soon to pick you up and take you to school. After ending the call, Lu Yuanmin quickly put his cell phone into his pocket, then took the tea brewed by his assistant and his own collection of tea, and walked respectfully towards the reception hall of Hangcheng No. 1 Middle School. He gave 3 cups of tea to 3 tutors from top universities sitting on the sofa. There was also a cup of tea for Mayor Lu Chengwei, who was accompanying him. Then he found a wooden low stool and sat down and said, "I have arranged for someone to pick him up, Sugu. He will be here soon. Please wait for the 3 martial arts seniors." As the head of a school, his status in Hangzhou is not low, but in front of these 3 people, he still had to keep a low profile. In this world where martial arts is respected, the pursuit of powerful warriors is at its peak. And the aura exuded by any one of these three people was enough to make Lu Yuanmin feel frightened. It's a great honor for tutors from the three top universities in the country to come to our city in person. The seniors should have informed me earlier so that I could arrange for my subordinates to entertain them. Lu Chenghui on the side also said flatteringly. Xingkong Martial Arts University, Kaiyang Martial Arts University, Wangtiania Martial Arts University. These three universities are the top universities recruiting civilian students in the summer region of the Earth Federation. The schools that are better than them are private schools set up by top families to cultivate talents. Those schools will not recruit members from outside the family. So no matter how good Sugu performed, those schools had no interest at all. As for the schools that were weaker than them, after hearing the news that the three heads of the admissions office of the top martial arts universities came to Hangzhou in person, they all left very wisely. Sugu will most likely choose one of these three schools to join. Don't be so nervous, Principal Lu. We are here to recruit good students you have trained, and we are not here to cause trouble for you. Xie Sanli, the head of the admissions office of Xingkong Martial Arts University, said gently, and Mayor Lu is too polite. We are just ordinary teachers in the school, so we don't need to fight so hard. Sitting on the right side of Jia Sanli, a woman with a fierce appearance and a hot figure said. Okay, Principal Lu and Mayor Lu, you can go and do your business first. The three of us are considered old friends. We haven't seen each other for a long time, so it's a good time to have a nice chat. After Lu Yuanmin and Lu Chenghui heard this, they looked at each other. Then he stepped back very wisely, leaving space for these three big guys. The middle-aged short-haired man who had been silent for a long time and kept his eyes closed said, "Long time no see. I didn't expect that there would be a student this year that would attract the three of us at the same time. This person is Zhou Zongbao from Kaiyang Martial Arts University." The woman who just opened her mouth to clear the place was Liang Hongling, director of the admissions office of Wangtiania Martial Arts University. The three of them are all admissions officers at the top universities, and they generally do not personally take part in recruiting students. But once they appear, it shows that for this student, the school behind them is determined to win. On weekdays, the three of them would usually avoid each other, and it felt like the king was missing. But this time they made an exception because of the same student. Let's talk about it first. This student Sugu will be admitted to Kaiyang Martial Arts University, Zhou Zongbao said firmly. As soon as he came up, he made his purpose clear in a strong manner. You said that if you want this student, he will be yours? Liang Hongling's temper was as explosive as his figure. Facing the other party's declaration, he said directly. I also said that I hope Tianya Martial Arts University will take this child away today. The two of them stared at each other. You won't let me and I won't let you. Seeing this, Jia Sanli held his forehead slightly. Why is it like this every time we meet? This kind of thing still depends on the student's wishes. Xie Sanli said. It also depends on the fate between the child and us. Sugu's life experience is a clean mess. He is a pure commoner child with no trace of aristocratic family. Coupled with his potential to kill enemies across borders, he is the most popular top student in these martial arts universities. While the three were arguing, the sliding door of the school reception hall was opened. Lu Yuanmin and Lu Chenghui led a tall and handsome young man into the sight of the three of them. The boy's clothes were extremely simple, and even his military uniform was a little faded due to starching. But he has a calm temperament that can only be found in old practitioners, like a monk who neither takes pleasure in things nor feels sorrow for himself. This is Sugu. The admissions teachers, who had already received photos to confirm his appearance, recognized him immediately. The admissions office teachers of the three top universities have their eyes firmly fixed on Sugu. Facing the gazes of the three powerful men, Sugu looked calm and indifferent, with nothing unusual on his face. The eyes of the three teachers became more and more solemn, as if they were repeatedly confirming something. Finally Jia Sanli couldn't help but said, "Have you broken through to the state of seeking me?" "Thanks to the favor of a senior, I got a book of skills, and I have broken through the realm in the past few days," Sugu said. "It's Tian Yuan Gong, right?" "That's right." The three admissions office teachers communicated with each other with their eyes, and they all saw surprise and determination to win Sugu in each other's eyes. Judging from the opponent's current soul power, which is still somewhat chaotic, He should have just broken through the seeking me realm not long ago. I obtained the skills after the college entrance examination, and I just recently made a breakthrough. It is estimated that it took about 7 days. This kind of speed is not inferior to that of some heirs of big families. The 3 admissions teachers looked at each other and then looked away again. Then he focused his attention on Sugu again, not hiding the heat in his eyes. The first person to speak was Zhou Zongbao from Kaiyang Martial Arts University. He said bluntly, "Sugu, you must already know why we came to see you. I won't talk nonsense. On behalf of Kaiyang Martial Arts University, I will conduct a special recruitment for you. After watching your college entrance examination video, I think you are a born warrior, Su Ji-yu. And I, Kaiyang University, have the best warrior resources among these 3 universities. As long as you enroll in our school, I can guarantee that you can practice the top warrior technique in the entire federal university, Tinluo Heart Technique. As long as you enroll in school, you can immediately give up the useless Tian Yuan Gong you are currently practicing. Tian Luo Heart Technique will definitely help you go further on the road of being a warrior." After hearing Zhou Zongbao's conditions, the expressions on the faces of Lu Yuanmin and Lu Chengwei became extremely exciting. This is the best technique of Kaiyang Martial Arts University. You must know that a powerful skill is a secret that is not passed down in some powerful families. If someone wants to steal their studies, even at the risk of violating federal laws, those aristocratic families will pursue them relentlessly. As soon as Sugu entered school, he had the opportunity to practice the school's most powerful skills. He was trained as a core disciple in a noble family. From now on, as long as Sugu doesn't do anything to discredit the school, his treatment will always be that of a biological son. They looked at Sugu, who looked calm at the moment and didn't express much. If before he entered the virtual spiritual world, the other party said that he could practice top warrior skills, Sugu might be tempted. But now, Sugu already has his own considerations in terms of martial arts. "Bah, you didn't do enough preparations at all. How dare you come here to recruit students?" Liang Hongling, who had a hot temper, obviously had a grudge against Zhou Zongbao for quarreling with her just now. Seeing that Sugu didn't say anything, he happily demolished the other party. Then she pulled Zhou Zongbao away from Su Ji-yu, put her charming face close to him, and said with a blue breath to Su Ji-yu, "I have completely watched your entire performance and video in the college entrance examination. In addition to knives, you also used daggers and spears. The technique you practice now is still the most famous transitional technique, Tian Yuan Gong. Obviously, Mr. Sugu, you haven't completely decided on the martial arts path you want to take in the future. I hope that Tianya Martial Arts University will be the only one in the entire Shayu Federation in the subdivided research fields of major martial arts professions. When you come to us, the top experts will plan your martial arts path. And our school also has cooperation with the military. When the time comes, you will also have the opportunity to try out the latest martial arts weapons first." When Liang Hongling spoke, her cheeks were very close to Sugu. The body fragrance of a mature woman penetrated directly into Sugu's nose. But Sugu's eyes have always been as dull as water, turning a blind eye to the casual temptation of the charming mature woman in front of him, as if he was a stone-hearted person. However, when the other party mentioned that there were a large number of new martial arts weapons that could be tried out, Sugu's eyes brightened up, and he was obviously a little moved. Seeing Su Ji-yu like this, Liang Hongling felt happy. He promised so many benefits, and went into battle in person to seduce this fledgling kid, so it was easy to catch him. This time, it's stable. Zhou Zongbao and Xie Sanli looked anxiously on the side, fearing that Sugu would just agree and leave with Wangtianya Martial Arts University. Sugu's expression quickly returned to calm, and he continued, "Senior, please don't get so close to me. I have to think about which martial arts university to choose." Sugu's reply made Liang Hongling's face stiffen. She took a step back and sat on the sofa again. You gritted your silver teeth and looked at Sugu bitterly. The beauty came over to you, but you pushed her away. "Are you still a man?" Zhou Zongbao secretly breathed a sigh of relief when he met Jia Sanli. Then Jia Sanli stepped forward and said, "Our Starry Sky Martial Arts University is the earliest martial arts university established by mankind. Its history can be traced back to the Dark Ages. Here is the most complete reserve of martial arts combat skills and exercises among the 3 universities. Many exercises can become top-level exercises and require the derivation of generations of martial arts. Our school has backups of the original blueprints and templates of those top-level exercises. What's so weird about just bragging about past history? Liang Hongling said softly. Yes, there is a way to compare the current situation. Zhou Zongbao also said. Hearing what the two said, the look on Jia Sanli's face became a little embarrassed. Indeed, as they said, in the recent ranking of the top universities on Earth, Starry Sky Martial Arts University barely made it into the top 100, ranking at the bottom among the 3 martial arts universities. This really damages the reputation of this oldest martial arts university. But then Xie Sanli's expression returned to its original state, and he continued, our Starry Sky Martial Arts University has the freest style of study and the oldest inheritance. Come to us, and you will be assigned your top instructor during your freshman year. And because you have a long history in our school, we have the most diverse martial arts heritage in the school. You will definitely be able to find the martial arts path that suits you best here. The 3 top universities all offered the most favorable terms they could when facing Sugu. At this moment, the 3 of them looked at Sugu at the same time, looking forward to his final choice. Sugu pondered for a moment, thinking, and then said calmly, I choose Star Martial Arts University. After hearing this, everyone present looked a little stunned. Shinkong Martial Arts University is not bad, it is the dream university of many martial arts students. But students like Sugu obviously have better places to go. They can't figure out why they should choose this low-ranking university on Earth. Does this kid have a fetish for antiquity? Although I don't understand the reason why Sugu made this choice, as a senior, he has been rejected, and the remaining 2 people are not easy to stalk. It was inconvenient for Zhou Zongbao and Liang Hongling to stay in Saduo, so they said goodbye and left. Jia Sanli, on the other hand, held Sugu's hand excitedly and kept saying the word, good, in his mouth. Don't worry, Mr. Sugu, Star Martial Arts University will not let you down. Sugu looked at the other party with the same smile on his face. Naturally, he chose this school because of its rich heritage of combat skills and martial arts. It will be of great help to Sugu in deriving his own skills in the future. These are what Sugu took into consideration when he was in retreat these days. But there is one more thing that I need to mention in advance while this admissions office teacher is here. I still have a small request, Sugu said. Xie Sanli said excitedly. Student Suji Yu, as long as the request is not too excessive, I can directly agree to it for you. I want to apply for the command department at Star Martial Arts University. You want to go to the command department? The expression on Jia Sanli's face was extremely astonished. He took out his ears, as if to confirm whether he heard correctly. Sugu, why did you choose this major? Sugu, you finally got into a top university. Why are you kidding about your future? Mayor Lu Chengwei and Principal Lu Yuanmin on the side spoke out to dissuade him. In their predictions, Sugu's first choice major must be the Warrior Academy. How many people can do the slash that kills enemies across levels? This is a natural melee warrior. It may be debatable whether to choose a knife or a gun as a weapon in the end. The alternative major must be assassin. In addition, if Sugu chooses a long-range warrior or heavy equipment, they may be surprised, but they will not dissuade him. After all, Sugu's current practice is Tian Yuan Gong. Although this technique is useless, it is superior in all aspects. The future of young people has endless possibilities. But the chain of command. This, Xie Sanli said with a serious face. Maybe Su Jiyu is bent on pursuing military affairs and doesn't know much about the current situation of the command system. Let me educate you seriously. God-level commanders were indeed born in the Dark Ages. They led the human Star Sea Fleet to defeat many alien tribes in the stars. Under their command, humans hunted mythical creatures. This is also the original intention of the establishment and existence of the command system. But after the Dark Ages, the alien races in the starry sky have long been expelled by humans and migrated. Now is the age of peace. How can there be any large-scale battles that require the use of the command system? This is a sunset profession. Having said this, Jia Sanli paused for a moment. He was hesitating about the next thing. Whether it was appropriate to hear it from his teacher at Shinkong Martial Arts University. But looking at Sugu, he still took a deep breath and said, nowadays, at Star Martial Arts University, the the command department and command academy can be called the place where the college's garbage students flourish. Do you know what kind of students are there? Those are students who have absolutely no chance of getting into Star Martial Arts University, but whose parents have a little money and are local rich men, and are willing to exchange benefits and then send their children to school. Although Star Martial Arts University has been declining in the recent global university rankings, it is still a great school. However, the Command Academy is a stain on this school. After saying that, Jia Sanli let out a long sigh of relief. They have directly revealed the stains about their school, so Mr. Sugu shouldn't still be able to think about it. The three of them looked at Sugu at the same time, hoping that Sugu would change his profession. But Sugu just smiled and understood what Sanli said. He already knew it. Not to mention, Ma Mingji's father donated a building to Shinkong Martial Arts University so that Ma Mingjia could enter the school. Even though Sugu knew this, he still insisted on choosing the command line. Naturally, he had Sugu's own considerations. As the supreme commander of a war, students in the command department may not have strong personal abilities, but they must have sufficient exposure to the combat skills and techniques of the major martial arts professions. Otherwise, he would not be able to arrange his warriors in the most suitable positions on the battlefield. Generally speaking, students from the warrior department and assassin department of martial arts universities who want to learn combat skills and exercises that are not suitable for their professions need to write reports level by level. The command department has no such restrictions at all. Students in this major have the highest learning and reading permissions for combat skills and exercises in the entire school. This is for Sugu, who hopes to use Tian Yuan Gong as a blueprint to create his own unique martial arts and is determined to follow his own martial arts path. This major is the most suitable place to go. Teacher Xie, you don't need to persuade me anymore. I have considered the choice of professional college many times at home these days. My choice is the chain of command. After hearing what Sugu said, the expressions of the three people present change. You kid, why are you so stubborn? Lu Yuanmin's face was full of anxiety. He didn't want the phoenix that finally flew out of his school to be delayed like this. He grabbed his few hairs and tried desperately to organize his words to dissuade Sugu. Lu Qinghui's mouth also opened and closed and opened again, thinking repeatedly about how to stop Su Jiyu from going astray. At this time, Xie Sanli stopped the two of them. He looked at Su Jiyu seriously and said, "Although I don't know why you made this choice, we can only give opinions on professional choices and have no right to interfere. When you come to Shinkong Martial Arts University, please tell us that within the university's sphere of influence, we will send special cars to pick up and transport you provincial champions. I look forward to the day when you come to Star Martial Arts University. On behalf of the school, I welcome you in advance." After speaking, he turned and left. As a teacher in the admissions office of a university, this is the busiest time of the year for him. Now everything that needs to be said has been said to the child Sugu. Since it is the other party's final choice, it is not convenient for Jia Sanli to say anything more. Perhaps when Sugu actually joins the Command Academy, he will understand how outrageous and wrong this choice is. At that time, he will go through the transfer process by himself. Jia Sanli thought secretly. Although under normal circumstances, once a professional college is selected, it cannot be changed. But geniuses always have some privileges. According to the tradition of Shinkong Martial Arts University, after the new students have chosen their skills and entered the self-seeking realm, there will be a competition for new students. That might be a good opportunity for Sugu to recognize the reality. After Jia Sanli left, Lu Yuanmin and Lu Chenghui looked at Su Jiyu with complicated expressions. They really didn't know why Sugu made this decision, but as Jia Sanli said, it was not convenient for them to obstruct it. Looking at Sugu, he hesitated to speak. The three of them just stood there, not knowing what to say. After a while, Lu Yuanmin took the initiative to find a topic. Have you watched the most popular battle analysis video recently? It's the one whose ID is Almighty Martial God and the coquettish assassin, right? Of course I watched it. Lu Chenghui said with a smile, cough, cough. Hearing someone in real life call out the middle-class ID he had picked up in the virtual spiritual world, Sugu almost coughed out the tea he drank from his nose. His face twitched as he looked at Lu Yuanmin and Lu Chenghui and said, "Almighty Martial God? You do not know?" Lu Chenghui looked at Su Jiyu and was a little surprised. This is one of the most popular videos leaked from the virtual spiritual world martial arts dojo in the past few days. Seeing this, Liu Yuanmin also said, "It is rare that the cannon fodder segment is popular and is as popular as the video of the competition between the elite segments. It is said that some martial arts universities that specialize in heavy equipment have made the video of that battle the most popular." A new case was played to explain to the freshmen how to deal with assassins. As he spoke, he took out his cell phone and found the video of the battle. Sugu looked over and saw that the loser, the coquettish assassin, took the initiative to play the video on his large phone. He divided the video into 2p. The first half is the battle process played at original speed, and the second half is his own review and analysis of the battle. The video barrages of both sub-Ps have reached 10W+, and the total number of barrages exceeds 20W, which is indeed a very terrifying amount of views. At the end of the video, the coquettish assassin appeared in person and said with great seriousness, "Almighty martial god, I was a little frivolous and absent-minded at the beginning of the battle with you, I'm sorry. This battle has rekindled my pursuit and desire for martial arts. Although I am not overestimating my abilities, I am eager to fight you again. I have sent the challenge letter to your email, and I hope you will consider it. It's quite interesting to watch your own battles from a third-person perspective." Sugu thought to himself. The fact that this battle can be so exciting has something to do with the all-powerful god of war's cool moves before. That's right, without limiting the range and using random weapons regardless of martial arts professional restrictions, it is indeed enough. If I were younger, I would also like to do this again. However, this all-powerful god of martial arts is obviously lucky enough. Judging from his subsequent performance, this kind of defensive heavy equipment is obviously the direction of his martial arts. Being able to randomly pick up weapons that suit his martial arts profession, this pretentious choice can be said to him. There are no restrictions. Liu Yuanmin and Liu Chenghui began to analyze the battle seriously. Sugu became more and more weird as he listened. Didn't the random weapon button help him cure his difficulty in choosing? Why does it have anything to do with pretentiousness? Liu Yuanmin suddenly patted Sugu on the back and joked. "Sugu, in the martial arts dojo, many users are students from the martial arts university. I think this almighty god of war is probably a student. In the future, there will be exchange battles between universities. Maybe you can face off against this almighty god of war." As a melee warrior, Sugu can kill enemies across ranks and can be said to be the sharpest spear. While the almighty martial god, as a heavy weapon, can force a good assassin to death by relying only on pressure without using supernatural combat skills. Strong shield. The collision of spears and shields is indeed exciting. Sugu's face was a little twitchy. Why did he still have his own business? He glanced at the battle video again, confirmed that the system face given to him by the virtual spirit world would not be recognized, and then agreed with a smile. That's really exciting. When the school registration and professional application matters are completed. Su Guxian gave a speech to the juniors and junior girls in Hangcheng No. 1 Middle School. Then, together with Mayor Liu Chenghui, we took several group photos for the promotion of the municipal government. After handling these matters, Sugu had no reason to stay in Hangzhou. Tianjin City, where Xingkang Martial Arts University is located, is hundreds of kilometers away from Hangzhou. The journey is long, and you have to adapt to the school environment in advance. Su Jiyu simply set off early for Tianjin City with Ma Mingjia. On the day of preparation for departure, Sugu's neighbors came to see him off one after another. Be careful on the ancient road and remember to eat on time every day. When you get to the place, you have to call us to tell us that you are safe. Xiao Jiyu, Grandpa still has some beef jerky at home. You can take some with you to eat on the road. Sugu is a child that these neighbors have seen since childhood. And now, even more so because of Sugu, Mayor Liu Chenghui has built a subway station near this remote community and connected it to the city's subway lines. Because of this incident, the house prices of their respective houses have doubled several times, and traveling has become much more convenient. Sugu has brought a huge favor to the neighbors living near his home, and he is naturally loved by them. Uncles, aunts, grandparents, you don't have to send me off. My brother is here to pick me up. At the gate of the community, Sugu said goodbye to his neighbors with a smile and got into Ma Mingji's black suspended luxury car. Neighbors watched the luxury car carrying Su Guyuan until they disappeared into the distant sky. It is estimated that this child Sugu will soar into the sky after we say goodbye today. I don't know if he will come back to visit his home where he first started. Someone said with emotion. Ma Mingji's family sent Su and Jiyu to the high-speed rail station and then left. On the next journey, if the older generation is among the young people, it will make them feel constrained. Simply listen to the young people's request and let them go alone. Didn't you say that you would get your hover car driver's license during the holidays and then you would drive me to school? Why do you still want me to take the high-speed rail today? As soon as he got out of the car and left Ma Mingji's parents, Sugu immediately started teasing him about not getting his driver's license. Ma Mingjia immediately glared over and cursed, "Sugu, stop beeping, you're a stingy guy. You got so many scholarships and you didn't even buy a first-class high-speed rail ticket. As long as I have grown up, I have never sat in a bus seat or lower than a business class seat on public transportation." The two of them just cursed and pushed their suitcases, walked into the high-speed rail station and sat on the high-speed rail. As soon as he got in the car and put away his luggage, Ma Mingjia fell asleep in his seat. Sugu looked at him and thought to himself, "I heard that this guy is working on a website recently and is busy working on it until late every day. Ask him what he is doing, and he will not tell you whether he is alive or dead." Since the brother doesn't want to talk, Sugu won't ask in detail. Seeing that Ma Mingjia had fallen asleep, Su Jiyu asked the flight attendant to cover Ma Mingjia with a blanket, while he was in his seat, flipping through the book he just bought, The Evolution of Top Martial Arts Techniques. It briefly introduces the history of the derivation of various top martial arts techniques in human history, as well as the characteristics of each period. If Sugu wants to find his own martial arts path, this book has a very good reference value. It is also a good prop to pass the time on the road. The journey from Hangzhou to Tianjin City is long, and the high-speed train has to stop at several stations along the way. The seats where Sugu and Ma Mingjia were sitting were in a 4-person section. The passengers opposite them came one after another, changing again and again. One of them was immersed in reading and the other was sleeping, without being affected at all. Until they were about to arrive at their destination, a man and a woman, two people of the same age as Sugu, sat down across from them. The girl wears glasses, has a pretty face, and seems to be quite quiet and doesn't like to talk. The boy opposite Sugu was completely opposite to the girl. He kept chattering after getting in the car. Starry Sky Martial Arts University is one of the top civilian universities in the entire Sha territory. Zuo Tianqian, we are the only ones in our city who go to this school. We need to take care of each other in the future. The boy who called himself Lu Zita looked at the girl next to him and kept saying, "I'm very lucky this year. Not only did I pass the score line of Starry Sky Martial Arts University, but the college I transferred to is also consistent with the martial arts career I want to pursue. After 4 years of college, I will definitely be able to become a warrior on my own after graduation." The boy talked eloquently, constantly bragging about his admission to the Starry Sky Martial Arts University, and vividly recounted his amazing performance in the martial arts exam. The girl named Zuo Tianqian responded with a smile at first, but then gradually became impatient. Apparently her patience with boys was reaching its limit. F*K, it's so noisy that I can't let anyone sleep. Ma Mingjia, who had been sleeping in his position, was woken up by the boy who kept chattering. He opened the blanket covering his body and said angrily. And when he saw the girl sitting opposite him clearly, his face suddenly became blank, and the anger he had just gotten out of immediately disappeared. Then he nudged Sugu with his elbow, and his two pairs of small eyes opened wide and stared at him. "You kid is so unkind. Such a beautiful girl doesn't ask me to get up and take a look at her." Sugu immediately stared back. "You sleep like a dead pig, no one can wake you up." After the two briefly communicated with their eyes, Sugu took back the book in his hand. "With the noisy character of the guy next to me, I won't be able to read anymore." And when Sugu raised his face that had been buried in the book, Zuo Tianqian saw clearly the appearance of the boy sitting opposite him, who had been covering his face with a book. At that moment, she seemed to feel that the brightness of the world in her eyes had been turned up a bit. The good mood that was ruined by Lu Zita's nagging just now recovered a lot after looking at that handsome face. What a handsome young man. In addition to his appearance, what made Zuo Tianqian's heart beat loudly was the plain and watery temperament exuded by this boy. Those eyes were quiet and peaceful, completely different from the many boys who would stare at her with lustful eyes as soon as they came up. Hello, classmate, I am Ma Mingjia, a freshman at Shinkong Martial Arts University. This is my brother Sugu next to me. He was also admitted to this school. There is only this martial arts university in Tianjin City. We should be students of the same level. Ma Mingjia pulled Su Jiyu with a smile and greeted Zuo Tianchen. Sugu could only nod helplessly and said, "Hello, my name is Sugu." Starry Sky Martial Arts University, Zuo Tianchen, a new student in the Special Powers Department, Zuo Tianchen said to the two of them with a smile. Then he secretly glanced at Sugu, who was a little absent-minded, and then said, "Since we are all going to report to the Star Martial Arts University, let's report together later." "Yeah." Ma Mingjia agreed hastily, and then quickly tugged on Sugu's clothes. "This girl obviously has a good feeling for you, so seize the opportunity." Sugu had a helpless expression on his face. He really couldn't understand why these people were so interested in this kind of love affair between men and women. Isn't the extraordinary martial arts path not enough to attract these people's energy? On the side, Lu Zida felt anxious and angry when he saw that the girl he had flirted with for so long was being picked off by two people who came out of nowhere. But in order to maintain his gentlemanly demeanor, it was not convenient for him to have an attack, so he could only interrupt a few people's conversations abruptly. "My name is Lu Zida, and I am also a freshman at Starry Sky Martial Arts University. By the way, I am from the Warrior Academy, Warrior Department. You too, which academy are you from?" "Mingjia and I both applied for the Command Academy," Sugu said calmly. After hearing this, Lu Zida and Zuo Tianchen were stunned for a moment at the same time. Immediately, the smileless expression on Lu Zida's face immediately turned into visible joy. "Command College? The most rubbish college that anyone with a little money can attend. It's just to polish one's resume and nothing else," he teased with a smile on his face. At the same time, I breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out to be a waste from the Command Academy. How could such a person compete with me? "Don't worry, even if your command college is the most useless college in the whole school, it is still from the Starry Sky Martial Arts University. When the time comes to add this to your resume, it will be no problem to go out and fool people who don't know the industry," Lu Zida said carelessly. He naturally took back the initiative in the conversation among the four, and started talking to the other three. In his words, he used to belittle the Command Academy, and indirectly belittle Ma and Su, in order to improve himself. Ma Mingjia was so angry that his teeth itched with hatred, but when he saw that his brother Su Jiyu was too lazy to look at him, he stopped arguing with him to avoid losing the price. On the side, Zuo Tianchen yawned profusely and felt extremely irritable. Her eyes kept looking at Sugu, who was sitting quietly by the window, looking at the scenery outside. In addition to looking at him seductively, Zuo Tianchen also felt a familiar feeling when she looked at that face, as if she had seen him somewhere. But when I carefully recalled the faces of the friends I had known since childhood, there was indeed no such person as Sugu. Am I overthinking it? Zuo Tianchen's unintentional little actions were naturally noticed by Lu Zida, who had always focused on her. He looked at Sugu, who had been silent, and couldn't help but feel a surge of anger in his heart. It seems that always speaking in words is always insufficient. You have to use some actual cases to compare, so that Tianchen can understand that compared to this trash with only a face, I am the one who is worthy of her. When the high-speed train stopped at the Tianjin City platform, the four people from the same school who met on the high-speed train were ready to pick up their luggage and go to the school's freshman report office to report. Ma Mingjia was one step ahead of Lu Zida and helped Zuo Tianchen take out the suitcase, then threw the pink suitcase to Sugu and let the two people walk together. Then he used his generous body to forcefully separate Lu Zida from Sugu and Zuo Tianchen. This set of smooth combos was silently rehearsed countless times in the heart when the little fat man listened to Lu Zida bragging about himself in his words on the train. After using it smoothly, Lu Zida was so angry that he almost didn't leave the high-speed rail station before he took out his weapon and challenged Ma Mingjia to a duel. When Lu Zida was walking behind, he saw the goddess he had been chasing for so long. She seemed to take the initiative to approach Sugu inadvertently. When the two of them walked, their left and right arms would always stick together unintentionally. His eyes were almost spitting fire. Sugu and Ma Mingjia, they are just two useless people in the command system, but they actually stole women from me. Today I will step on your face hard. After walking out of the ticket gate, Lu Zita took the lead and took the initiative to act as a tour guide. We don't have to go there on our own to go to Star Martial Arts University. In order to welcome new students, Star Martial Arts University has cooperated with the city's transportation system to open a special route to the school. We can just wait at the platform of the high-speed rail station for a while. A special car will pick us up soon. Furthermore, Martial Arts University adheres to a wolf culture that respects the strong. The higher the test scores of students, the higher-end cars they can pick up and drop off. It is said that those provincial champions who were specially recruited by him will be specially picked up and dropped off by their teachers in floating luxury cars. Lu Zita led the way while talking, and they quickly arrived at the waiting point dedicated to Starry Sky Martial Arts. Not long after, an S99 model Mercedes-Benz stopped in front of the four people. This military off-road vehicle, which sells for millions outside, is actually used by Shinkong Martial Arts University to pick up and drop off students. I have to lament the luxury of this school. Sugu, let's go to school together. Zuo Tianxian took the initiative to pull Sugu's sleeve and wanted to sit in the back seat of the car with him. At this moment, Lu Zita held down the car door and stopped her from opening it. Sorry, Sugu and classmate Ma Mingjia, Lu Zita said with a smile. This bus is here to pick up me and Zuo Tianxian, who is in the same city as me. Judging from the college entrance examination scores, there will be buses to pick up students from your command department. It seems that our fate has ended today and we can only part ways here. Seeing Lu Zita smiling and deliberately making things difficult for others, Zuo Tianxian frowned and said, "Isn't it just a car ride? Why are you so stingy? Isn't this kind of thing a violation of school rules and regulations? I don't want to be like this, but the rules are the rules." Lu Zita looked extremely proud. He just wanted to rely on this matter to make Sugu and Ma Mingjia understand the gap between them. After today, after losing so much face, he didn't believe that the other party would still be shameless and come to Zuo Tianxian again. Then Lu Zita stepped forward, patted Su Jiyu on the shoulder, and said in an old-fashioned way, "Classmate Sugu, since we are traveling together, I will give you a message today. A good school doesn't mean you are good. Although you can barely go to the same university as me with some money saved by your parents, this is not your ability. It's for your own good that I won't let you get in the car today. After all, on the road of life, how many people will let strangers get in the car? Remember today's lesson and work hard to catch up with me in the future." In front of Zuo Tianxian, he gave Sugu a hard lesson. Lu Zita's heart, which had been blocked ever since he got off the high-speed train, finally felt relieved. Sugu glanced at him lightly, then gently patted his arm on his shoulder away, and then said, "No, the car to pick us up has arrived. Oh, the big bus to pick you and Ma Mingjia up has arrived. In that case, I will." Boom! The roar of an engine came from the sky, interrupting Lu Zita's words. The four people looked up at the same time and saw a streamlined and exaggerated floating luxury car slowly descending from the top of their heads and parked next to the S99 Mercedes-Benz. Lu Zita's mouth slowly opened. This is the X100 model Bugatti Veyron. Although it looks like the size of an ordinary off-road vehicle, this vehicle has a small ecological circulation system inside. If the owner is willing and his body is strong enough, he can even drive this car out of the atmosphere. When this car is parked next to the S99 Mercedes-Benz, it looks like a piece of exquisite Damascus steel next to a rusty steel bar. The two simply cannot be compared. Isn't this Director Xie? You actually came out in person. Is this because the school has a task for you to do? At this moment, the person sitting in the driver's seat of the S99 Mercedes-Benz stuck his head out of the window and said to the owner of the Veyron respectfully, "There is a very special student. I want to pick him up personally." Jia Sanli got off the car and said helplessly. When Lu Zita heard these words, his whole body suddenly trembled, and then his heart trembled with excitement. The director of the school personally drove to pick up the students. Which student can have such a great reputation? There are only 4 freshmen from Star Martial Arts University standing here waiting for the bus. Those 2 losers in the command system can be excluded directly, and Zuo Tianxian's college entrance examination score is not as high as hers. From this point of view, could it be? Could it be that Director Xie is here to pick me up? Lu Zita's heart was beating loudly, and it seemed that it was exactly what he felt. The director named Xie Sanli waved towards him with a smile. Just when he was thinking about how to give the other party a good impression, Sugu beside him said calmly. Long time no see, teacher Xie. I didn't expect you to pick me up when school starts. It's troublesome. Actually, it didn't take long. Xie sadly smiled and said, now that you're here, hurry up and get in the car. I'll take you to school. Lu Zida, who had been smiling just now, seemed to be possessed by the power of petrification. His smile froze along with his whole body. The director of Starry Sky Martial Arts University, specially here to pick up the trash from the command department? How can this be? Could it be that this person named Sugu is from a big family? What's the connection with heaven? But among the top aristocratic families in Sha territory, there is no one named Su. I'm sorry, I never mentioned it before, but my brother is the top scholar in the province's martial arts examination. So this car is here to pick up my brother, Ma Mingjia said to Lu Zida with a smile. My brother likes to keep a low profile, but I like to be slapped in the face the most. Weren't you such an arrogant educator just now? Now call me another one. Zuo Tianxian on the side covered her mouth in disbelief. She never expected that Sugu, who was so low-key on the road, would be the provincial champion. And the #1 scholar in the martial arts examination and the command system? Why are these two unrelated labels attached to the same person? Suddenly, Zuo Tianxian's big eyes slowly opened wide and her pupils began to shrink. She finally knew why she always felt familiar when looking at Sugu. Sugu was indeed not her classmate in the city, and she searched the wrong memory. Sugu, you are from Hangzhou. In this year's college entrance examination, you must be the one who crossed the realm and killed the warrior-level Starry Sky Titan. Hangcheng made a promotional video for Sugu, and following the controversy surrounding the unfair college entrance examination, the video became popular. Zuo Tianxian also saw the video, but she never expected that the boy who killed the enemy with a knife in the video was actually sitting opposite her along the way. Zuo Tianxian's eyes gradually changed when she looked at Sugu, from her favorable impression of handsome men of the same age to her admiration for powerful warriors. Lu Zida moved his stiff head when Zuo Tianxian was talking. When he saw the change in his goddess's eyes, he felt his heart twitching and hurting. It's fake, it's all fake, he whispered in a voice that only he could hear. Since we are together, it is fate. Tianxian, you will also ride to school with us. Ma Mingjia greeted Zuo Tianxian with a smile. Me? Zuo Tianxian was slightly stunned when she heard someone calling her name. Then she realized that she had been staring at a boy and was acting a bit rude. She blushed slightly and turned her head away. After Sugu expressed no objection, she nodded in agreement. Feeling the pain as if his heart was throbbing, Lu Zida knew that all this was true. And just before leaving, Sugu smiled and patted Lu Zida on the shoulder. The principle he has always adhered to is not to cause trouble and not be afraid of trouble. Since the other party has caused him trouble, Sugu doesn't mind giving him a lesson. I'm sorry, classmate Lu Zida, it's not convenient for you to get in the car that's here to pick me up. But for the sake of your kindness just now, I will leave you with a few words. Just because the school is awesome doesn't mean you are awesome. It's for your own good that I won't let you get in the car today. After all, on the road of life, how many people will let strangers get in the car? After speaking, Sugu turned and left. Lu Zida stared when he heard the other party's words coming back intact. Then he watched Zuo Tianxian, whom he had flirted with for a long time, finally get into the back seat of a luxury car with Sugu. And then the suspended luxury car took off and flew into the distance. He seemed to hear his heart being broken like glass. Ding, the Mercedes-Benz driver who had been waiting for him honked his horn impatiently, then stuck his head in and said, "Are you leaving or not?" Lu Zida said with a strength that was about to crush his teeth. "Let's go, why don't you go?" He got in the car and said in his heart. Although I don't know why Sugu chose the Command Academy, the teaching resources of the Command Department of Star Martial Arts University are not even half as good as those of other academies. Even if you are the provincial champion, in this case, you will definitely fall behind. I also have a chance to surpass you and defeat you. Lu Zida swore in his heart that he would avenge today's shame. When Sugu, Ma Mingjia, and Zuo Tianxian all sat on the seats of the suspension car, Jia Sanli, who was sitting in the driver's seat, said, "I'll take you with me first to see what the school is like." As he spoke, he started the hover car, and then the hover car began to climb along the city from bottom to top. The high-speed climb of the aircraft not only causes a pushing sensation on the back, but also brings strong altitude sickness. Fortunately, the three people sitting in the back row were all warriors. Although Zhuo Tianxian and Ma Mingjie felt a little uncomfortable, they were still within the tolerable range. Sugu, on the other hand, calmly looked out the window at the two landmark buildings in the city, the 2,000-story towers that reached straight into the sky, slightly lost in thought. When the hover car was side by side with Bai Yun, Xie Sanli stopped climbing and the car stopped in midair by him. He turned his head, looked at the three people sitting in the back seat and said, "We are going to school soon. You guys need to guess the location of the school first." Then, in order to arouse the interest of the three people, he said, "If you guess correctly, there will be a prize." As soon as he heard that there was a prize, Ma Mingjie immediately became excited and pointed at several locations, but Jia Sanli shook his head every time. Zhuo Tianxian hesitated for a long time, and finally chose a large open space where manned warships could be launched. Jia Sanli looked at it and still smiled and shook his head. "It's still wrong." At this time, Sugu's eyes, which had been looking out the window, condensed slightly. He found that the layout and structure of the entire city was quite similar to the yin-yang diagram circulated in ancient Xia dynasty. The 2,000-story tall buildings that were landmarks in the city he just looked at had a fisheye-like feeling of yin and yang. Could it be? A bold idea came out, and Sugu blurted out. "Are all the dark sides of Tai Chi diagram in the city the Starry Sky Martial Arts University?" Jia Sanli looked at Su Jiyu in surprise. This was the first time that a student had immediately guessed the size and location of the school. He nodded and said, "Yes, half of Tianjing City belongs to the teaching area of Xingkong Martial Arts University. However, the other half of the city's land, legally speaking, still belongs to Xingkong Wuhan University. However, in order to facilitate the federal government's entry and assistance in management, Xingkong Wuhan University leased the other half of the land to the local government at a relatively low rent. There are some interesting historical facts here from hundreds of years ago. I won't go into them today. If you are interested, some students can check them out in the school history museum." After hearing this, the boss of Ma Mingjie and Zhuo Tianxian opened his eyes and said in disbelief, "This half of the city is the Starry Sky Martial Arts University? There is still half of the city land that the school leases to the local government? How deep is this?" Even Sugu's eyes narrowed slightly, with a look of disbelief flashing in his eyes. At this moment, he also felt the terrifying undertones contained in this oldest martial arts university. This isn't a university, it's simply a college city. These are prepared rewards. Xie Sanli took out 2 checks with his signature from his arms and handed them to Zhuo Tianxian and Ma Mingjie respectively. Most freshmen are already at the peak of their self-cultivation realm before entering school, and they only need one more skill to reach the state of self-cultivation. With this, you can exchange it with your school teacher for a transitional skill, similar to Tian Yuan Gong, or you can sell it directly, exchange it for credits, and save it to buy a real major skill. Zhuo Tianxian happily took the signed piece of paper, her face full of excitement. This piece of paper can actually be exchanged for credits. You know, in top martial arts universities, the value of credits is much higher than money outside, because you can use credits to buy martial arts items here that are impossible to buy outside. She glanced at Sugu gratefully, but she didn't expect that by following him, she would miss such an opportunity. At this moment, she felt that her love heart, which had been suppressed by high school studies for 3 years, began to beat loudly next to this extremely outstanding peer. When Ma Mingjie took the piece of paper, Jia Sanli looked at Su Jiyu and said, "Sugu, you have entered the Seeking Me realm and you also have the transition technique. Do you want me to directly help you exchange that share for credits?" Hearing this sentence, Zhuo Tianxian's eyes widened and looked at Sugu with eyes full of disbelief. Although she had seen videos of Sugu killing enemies across levels before, until this moment, she truly understood the gap between herself and him. "I am still in the realm of self-cultivation, and I hope to enter the next great realm with the support of my martial arts university teachers after I go to college." And Sugu has successfully broken through on his own. She had always been regarded as the proud daughter of heaven, but she felt ashamed in front of Sugu. Sugu pondered for a moment and then said, "Teacher Xie, can you exchange this reward for me to study for a day in the school's martial arts place? The place where martial arts is passed on, where martial arts forces generally store their collections of martial arts combat skills books, is where the true heritage of the forces lies." This is especially true for Starry Sky Martial Arts University, which is said to have a profound foundation and has been established since the Dark Ages. After hearing Sugu's request, Jia Sanli was silent for a moment and then said, "Actually, entering the martial arts place to study was one of the conditions for specially recruiting you. However, it was not officially opened to the outside world until the official start of school. I can let you go there to practice in advance, but are you sure you want to use this opportunity to just learn combat skills in advance?" Sugu nodded without any hesitation. Certainly. Most of the combat skills Su Jiyu has acquired so far in his practice were acquired at the comprehensive high school in Hangcheng No. 1 Middle School. They are all cheap mainland goods. But it's different here. Whether it's rare, or high-level combat skills, Starry Sky Martial Arts University must have an extremely large reserve. Here, he will definitely be able to transform himself in martial arts. When it comes to martial arts, Sugu will never allow himself to delay gratification. Okay. Upon seeing this, Jia Sanli immediately nodded in agreement. He looked at the excited expression on Sugu's face and sighed slightly in his heart. What a great kid! Having combat power that surpasses those of his peers, but also being so motivated, he is a born warrior. How can such a person go to a garbage gathering place like the command system? It's just like making beautiful jade covered in dust. Sugu, you must choose your own, real major in Kung Fu as soon as possible. When most students have entered the realm of seeking me, there will be a competition for freshmen as per previous years. Jia Sanli instructed. Sugu nodded after hearing this and didn't pay too much attention. He was still thinking about combat skills at the moment. Seeing this, Jia Sanli looked at the 1,000-story high-rise building not far away in the school and smiled and said softly, "Don't think that you can get your favorite skills by entering the martial arts place. How many combat skills you can learn depends on your own ability." After traveling around the school, Jia Sanli began to transport the 3 people in the car to various locations in the school. First, he went to the teaching area of Xingkong Martial Arts University and put Zuo Tianxian down. The girl on the floating car didn't know what kind of stimulation she received. She didn't even return to her dormitory and immediately went to redeem her skills to break through to the next level. After completing the freshman registration, Sugu and Ma Mingjia were sent to the boys' dormitory area. Jia Sanli looked at Sugu getting out of the car through the rearview mirror and thought to himself. Although Sugu is a rare genius, whoever can be admitted to the Starry Sky Martial Arts University is not the genius of a city. The performance is not inferior to that of Sugu, and there are also top scorers in other provinces. The freshman competition in a month will definitely make Sugu understand what a mistake it is to join the command system. It is simply delaying his future. When the time comes, we will take him with us and go through the transfer process. Thinking of this, Jia Sanli felt much better. When the hover car behind him left, Sugu looked at the dormitory where he lived, with surprise on his face. This was the first time in his life that he saw a school using a 3-story single-family villa as a dormitory for ordinary students. He walked in and looked at the notice posted on the door. There will be a fixed cleaning robot to help with cleaning every day. You can order martial arts nutrition meals directly in the dormitory, and a takeaway boy will deliver them directly. And the basement of the villa is also a personal training ground for students. It's simply heaven. Sugu said with emotion. Brother Su, are you going to the place where martial arts are taught next to learn combat skills? Ma Mingjia looked at Su Jiyu and said. Sugu smiled, shook his head and said, "It's been a long time since I've done anything with anyone, and my hands are itching. Let's go to the virtual spiritual world together later." While Sugu was speaking, he had already taken out the X device protected by several sheets of spongeboard from the suitcase. Sugu hasn't done anything with anyone these days and has been holding back for a long time. Seeing this, Ma Mingjia hurriedly said, "Wait a minute, brother, wait a minute. I have something to discuss with you about this. It's a big deal related to you and the virtual spirit world." After listening to Ma Mingji's words, Su Jiyu looked at him with a puzzled face. He knew 9 things out of 10, nothing about doing business. Your Ma Mingjia family has been in business for generations, and your father is the richest man in Hangzhou. Why should you discuss any business with me? Ma Mingjia rubbed his hands with a smile, then turned on his phone and sent a link to Sugu. "Brother, look at this. I stayed up late these past few days to make this website." Sugu opened the link and looked at the homepage of the website where the link was imported. He was stunned for a moment. The name of the website is written in golden artistic characters, and it has a very exaggerated name, Martial God's Home. The subtitle next to the main title describes the purpose of the website. The first communication home for fans of Almighty God of War. Scroll down the website and see that there is only one video uploaded on this website, which is the complete video of the battle where Sugu first landed in the virtual spirit world and defeated the coquettish assassin. What are you doing? Sugu looked at this thing and was confused. Ma Mingjie took advantage of the situation and put his arm around Sugu's shoulders and said, "Brother Su, after you finished fighting the coquettish assassin, I went to check out the money-making model of the anchors in the martial arts dojo. I found that those anchors can monetize traffic as long as their abilities are passable and they specialize in an unpopular weapon as a gimmick. What is traffic? That's money. Do you know that in the last battle, you randomly selected weapons and random battlefields, and then easily defeated your opponent in seconds? How awesome was your opponent, attracting more traffic and fans? I haven't done any promotion on this website, and more than 40 people have registered. If you can maintain a winning streak in the future and become famous in the virtual spiritual world, the more fans will join the Martial God's House. Soon we will just by building a website and making money, we can completely solve the problem of making money for our 4-year college life." Hearing this, Sugu felt a little moved again. But when he heard the word traffic, he immediately recalled some traffic stars in his previous life. When those people go out and take a plane, there will be a bunch of people holding long guns and short cannons to take pictures. Sugu got goosebumps all over when he thought about how he might have more and more fans if he was exposed. He waved desperately to Ma Mingjie and said, forget it. You should find other ways to make money." Ma Mingjie seemed to have expected that Su Ji would say this. He still smiled and said seductively, "Brother Su, I guess you don't know yet. Generally speaking, martial arts universities highly encourage students to make a name for themselves in the virtual spiritual world. Because this matter can help the school further promote it, it is the most effective advertisement. Therefore, your record, number of fans, and reputation in the spiritual world martial arts dojo can be directly converted into credits. At Star Martial Arts University, credits can be purchased directly here, and there are new martial arts weapons that are completely unimaginable outside the campus. Brother Su, don't you want the underground training room of your dormitory to be filled with the latest martial arts weapons from the military?" After hearing this, Sugu's eyes widened with confusion on his face. Two images emerged in his mind, one of which showed him being chased and taking pictures when he went out. From then on, his right to privacy was difficult to protect. Another one is the underground training room of the dormitory, where his beloved martial arts weapons are piled up. After a while, Sugu gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, then it's up to you to handle this matter. But first let me tell you, I will never take the initiative to reveal my ID or identity in the real world. Unless I can't hide it anymore and someone else recognizes it, I won't be able to identify it." This was a compromise method that he came up with after struggling for a long time. After hearing this, Ma Mingjie immediately smiled and said, "It's okay, Brother Su, your words are enough. Brother, I'm not reliable in other things, but I've never cheated you on making money." After getting the tacit answer from Sugu, he was in a good mood. As for the condition he issued that Ma Mingjie should not take the initiative to reveal his identity, he didn't care at all. In his opinion, how could Sugu not be exposed? Even warriors with the same martial arts profession and the same abilities learn the same techniques. The fighting style presented in the end will definitely be different. It's like this person's fingerprint, there must be something special and different. It is also for this reason that many people in the brave stage in martial arts dojos use their real names, because their special fighting style is so easy to recognize that using ID is completely useless. After reaching the elite level, no one will use ID. When the opponent's Sugu matches become stronger and stronger in the future, he will be studied more and more by his opponents. One day everyone will know that Sugu is the all-powerful god of martial arts. And that's when the traffic is monetized. When that day comes, you will definitely be able to harvest a lot of traffic and credits. I'm such a business genius. While Ma Mingjie was thinking about his business, Sugu had already finished wearing the X device. Seeing this, Ma Mingjie hurriedly said, Wait for me, Brother Su. I'm not ready yet. I want to go in as soon as possible. I want to video the second battle of the Almighty Martial God and put it on our website." The almighty martial god has landed in the virtual spiritual world. Close black lens bracket. When Sugu logged into his ID in the virtual spirit world, at the same time, a middle-aged man saw the notification sound on his mobile phone. And then he suddenly jumped up from the sofa. Is it finally here? He is the owner of the ID, coquettish assassin. Since he was defeated by Sugu last time, he has been paying attention to the movements of almighty martial god. But since defeating him, this account seems to have disappeared, and there has been no movement. Now that Sugu finally landed, he didn't hesitate at all. He immediately took out his X device and entered the virtual spiritual world martial arts dojo. Sugu's landing place in the virtual spiritual world was directly set up as a martial arts dojo. This time he landed at the entrance of the arena. Sugu walked straight in and began to match the opponent for this battle. Here he comes. The guy with the random weapon last time is here. That's him. Looking at it up close, he's not particularly strong. How does he use that heavy shield so well? It seems that in future battles, we must not be fooled by the opponent's appearance. Anyone who looks at this guy at the first glance can tell that this is a sophisticated defensive heavy equipment. I hope I can match this all-powerful god of war with a decent opponent today. Our university used this guy's performance in the last tank battle as a case study, so I paid special attention to this guy. I hope I can learn from him in his battle today. Some reloading tips. As soon as Sugu entered the stage, spectators entered the auditorium one after another. Those watching looked at Sugu and there was a burst of whispers. Thanks to the coquettish assassin uploading the video of his defeat and it went viral. Compared to the last time, Sugu's battle was much better with no one paying attention except Ma Mingjia. There were already more than 1,000 people in the audience. This is a relatively rare battle in the cannon fodder section where no one is paying attention. I don't know what kind of opponent the almighty martial god will be matched with this time. The coquettish assassin murmured as he looked at Sugu's back. The challenge letter he sent to his account was ignored by Sugu, and it was almost impossible to match the same opponent twice in a row based on the mechanism of the martial arts dojo. This time, he honestly acted as an audience. Brother, do you want to join our big family? At this moment, a thiefy, chubby face came over and handed a flyer with a mysterious website address printed on it to the coquettish assassin. The coquettish assassin looked at Ma Mingji's face in the game and said with a speechless expression, "Please leave the weird little advertisements to others. I have a wife. Don't come to me for pyramid schemes, I'm really poor." Ma Mingjia was stunned for a moment, and immediately understood that the other party had misunderstood, and immediately said, "Brother, you are mistaken. I am not engaged in color, let alone pyramid schemes. This is a serious website, and the place where we gather is the fans of the website." The coquettish assassin clicked on the website link on the flyer, and the expression on his face became even more speechless. You just played one game in the cannon fodder section and you already have loyal fans? And the only video uploaded on the website is of beating me? Sorry, forget it, I'm not interested. The coquettish assassin sighed and returned the flyer to Ma Mingjia. At this moment, his eyes narrowed slightly and he looked in the direction of the arena and said, "The match has been completed. The almighty martial god's opponent this time is here." In the arena, Sugu raised his eyes and looked at the figures gradually appearing opposite him. That was his opponent today. The man wears a mask that covers half of his face, making it difficult to see his age and appearance. He is a strong man with bulging muscles and a height of 1.9 meters. Visually, he should be a warrior or heavy equipment, but the ID floating above his head is reincarnation of the gun god. Is the opponent a long-range warrior? Sugu glanced at the other person's hands, which were rough and full of scars. A smile appeared on his lips, as if he had found an interesting opponent. The man with the ID name, reincarnation of the gun god, noticed Sugu's gaze in an instant and quickly put his hands behind his back. The pair of beast-like eyes stared at Sugu through the mask, as if sizing up his next prey. At least he's more presentable than the guy with the coxcomb hair last time. Feeling the extremely dangerous aura exuding from the other party, Sugu thought to himself. After seeing the opponent's ID, a small discussion broke out in the audience. It's actually him, the reincarnation of the god of guns. I really didn't expect him to collide with the almighty martial god. It's interesting now. It's a heavy weapon that doesn't look like a heavy weapon. It's a long-range weapon that doesn't look like a long-range weapon. The matching system of the martial arts dojo really has a kind of cold humor. Open the market, reload versus remote, who wins and who loses? Ma Mingjie was confused by these discussions. If it weren't for Sugu, he wouldn't pay attention to what happened in the martial arts dojo, and he wouldn't know anything about these players. So he could only ask the guy with the coxcomb hair next to him for advice. Brother, what is the origin of this gun god reincarnation? Is he strong or not? The coquettish assassin heard someone ask him. As a host, he likes to show off and immediately gushed. Strong must mean strong. After all, the martial arts dojo system will match you with opponents of a similar level to you based on your past performance. This reincarnation of the gunslinger can be said to be the hottest rookie during the cannon fodder period. With 2 modified large-caliber laser guns, he has won 15 games in a row and his momentum is very strong. But because he is too tall, and in every battle he reveals a murderous aura that wants to rush forward and tear his opponent alive. He is not like a lightweight long-range fighter at all, so this matter is often brought out ridicule. But I judge that if this guy continues his winning streak, there is a high probability that he will be promoted to the Brave Division when the ranks are redetermined this year. Speaking of this, the coquettish assassin was a little envious as he spoke. The Brave section was considered to be the pinnacle of his career. But the strength shown by the reincarnation of the gun god and the almighty martial god on the field now can be said to be destined for the Brave Division. 15 consecutive victories. Ma Mingjie smacked his lips slightly after hearing this. It seemed that he was indeed a strong man. Then he asked the second question, which made him a little nervous. Brother, you look very understanding. Can you tell me who is stronger between these 2 people? After hearing this, the coquettish assassin thought for a moment and then blurted out. It must be almighty martial god. As a heavy weapon, it has more advantages than long-range warriors in single-player confrontations. When gun god reincarnation has no support from his teammates, almighty martial god has to do is to rush forward and use his skills. With the strength advantage of heavy equipment, you can just crush him directly at close range. And it can be seen from the battle between almighty god of war and coquettish assassin that he is also quite accomplished in pace. It is extremely difficult for reincarnation of the gunslinger not to let him get close. And according to the general rules of the martial arts dojo, generally those whose opponents have a low winning streak or a lower rank will have the right to choose the battlefield. As long as you choose a battlefield with a small and complex terrain, almighty martial god can be said to have reserved this place. A battle won. After hearing this, Ma Mingjie nodded repeatedly. He understood after hearing that all the other parties' inferences were based on the fact that Sugu still used the heavy shield from the last time. It seems that this competition is quite mysterious. He knew his brother too well. Even though the guy in front of him who was hiding his ID spoke clearly and logically, it made perfect sense to him and was a feasible tactic. But Sugu will definitely not do this. The style of play he chooses must be the one with the most barrages. Sure enough, after Sugu once again browsed through the weapons library available in the martial arts dojo, he skillfully pressed the 2 buttons, random weapon, and random battlefield. In front of Sugu, the 2 pages of battlefield and weapons turned into 2 high-speed rotating turntables, constantly rotating. And this move of his made the murderous aura on the reincarnation of the gun god on the opposite side become even more intense. He stared at Sugu, as if he would have rushed in immediately if the battle had not been completed before the battlefield transformation was completed. This guy actually dares to challenge himself. What the hell is this all-powerful god of war doing? He's using random weapons again. Holy shit, he's so pretentious. If I were a gunmaster, I would kill him right away. If someone kills him like this, I feel like I won't be able to see anyone for a week. Didn't you see that the gunman's face turned dark? How can he be so random with a heavy weapon? What if he is given a weapon from another profession? You must know that among the 4 major professions, heavy armor is the profession with the least changes and the least adaptable one. The entire audience was stunned when they saw Sugu's actions. Judging from the last battle, this almighty martial god is not an experienced heavy equipment. Why are there still such random weapons now? Isn't he afraid of switching to weapons from other martial arts professions? The coquettish assassin who had been staring at the arena was completely stunned at this moment. He could never understand why the almighty god of war made such a choice. The last time the almighty martial god used this move on him, wasn't it because he lacked seriousness and respect when fighting him, so he specifically used this option to wake himself up. Why is he using this against the reincarnation of the gun god? Now, the other party is here to fight with you properly. Isn't it a completely unnecessary provocation for you to do this? Could it be that these two people know each other personally and have any personal grudges? The coquettish assassin murmured to himself. The two of them probably don't know each other. Ma Mingji's face twitched as he felt the heated discussion erupting in the audience. This brother of mine says he has no interest in becoming a star, but his slutty style is really a natural conspicuous one. The emotions of thousands of people were completely aroused by him alone, although many people are now criticizing him. Soon, the two turntables in front of Sugu stopped. Weapon. Different blood black gold sword. The warrior's basic weapons, the black gold sword series, are integrated with the corpses of the alien races in the starry sky, making them even stronger. Battlefield. Swamp. The battlefield is fairly neutral. In this swamp area, every warrior has to consume more soul power to prevent himself from falling into the swamp. This is not friendly on either side. But in terms of weapons, the almighty martial god did not randomly select weapons that match his own. Although the black gold sword is a relatively versatile weapon, failing to choose a suitable weapon will weaken it too much for a warrior. The next battle will probably be a one-sided massacre. The coquettish assassin said with some disappointment. He came to witness the battle of the man who defeated him, but he didn't expect to see such a result. The environment of the arena began to change, and soon it turned into a black and gray swamp area. Sugu and the reincarnation of the gun god both used their soul power and stepped on the swamp surface. The reincarnation of the gun god looked at Sugu and said coldly, "For whatever reason you provoked me and tried to provoke me, I had to tell you that you did it." Those cold eyes were filled with murderous intent. "In the next battle, I will definitely make you regret your decision." The battlefield switching is completed and the death battle begins. The reincarnation of the gun god pulled out his two large caliber laser guns. The two guns fired at the same time, firing 6 rounds in an instant. Sea-level gunfighting skills, pinpoint shooting. 3 bullets were fired at different key positions, and 3 more were used to block movement. The reincarnation of the gun god uses his ultimate move to finish off his opponent. Without the protection of a heavy shield, Sugu seemed to be in dire straits from the beginning. Looking at the soul bullets fired at him, Sugu smiled. He leaned his weight forward, kicked off his feet fiercely, and without any intention of dodging, he attacked directly in the direction of the reincarnation of the gun god. Facing the fatal bullets flying towards the vital points at 3 points in one line, Sugu moved freely with the black gold sword in his hand. When the black gold sword accurately struck the trajectory of the 3 bullets. The kinetic energy of the soul power bullet's shot was so strong that the 3 slashing sounds were louder than the other. But Sugu's hand holding the sword was extremely steady, as if what he had just split was just flying goose feathers. The reincarnation of the gunslinger's eyes narrowed. He was a master of swordsmanship with this slash that had been refined over time. It seems that this is a lucky guy, and the random weapon can actually be the weapon that he is best at. The reincarnation of the gun god quickly opened his position. If the long-range warrior was approached, it would be over. While retreating, the laser gun in the gun god's right hand kept shaking, firing arc guns one after another. Shooting in the direction of Sugu at various tricky angles to interfere with Sugu, who wanted to get closer. And his left hand kept inputting superimposed soul power on another large-caliber laser gun. This is the classic long-range play style, kiting the opponent while accumulating power. When the soul power superimposed in their weapons is huge enough, they can pry open the heavy shell with one shot. The audience in the auditorium at this moment looked at the situation in the arena, and their expressions became a little dull. There is no doubt that this contest is a rare, high-quality contest in the cannon fodder segment. Whether he is the almighty martial god or the reincarnation of the gun god, he has a profound accumulation of martial arts. But what made them confused was another thing. They watched the almighty god of war move the black gold sword in his hands with ease. No matter how weird the trajectory of the arc gun fired by the reincarnation of the gun god is, he can easily cut it open. What a strong sword handling skill, but aren't you King reloading? Those viewers who wanted to watch him compete and learn reloading skills because of his reputation as the almighty god of war were now extremely confused. No, isn't this idea heavy warrior? What kind of warrior is he? Can anyone tell me? Someone couldn't help but ask, but no one present could answer his question. The most confused person in the entire audience was the coquettish assassin who had recently been defeated by the almighty martial god. The coquettish assassin looked at the operation of the almighty martial god on the field, and his eyes widened in disbelief. What the hell is going on? For ordinary people, it would be extremely good if they could use a weapon in their entire life. But what exactly is going on right now? Why can I use the sword again after I abused my ID with a reloaded shield a few days ago? This is the use of weapons across martial arts professions, and the proficiency is so unusually high. The coquettish assassin felt that his head was dizzy, and everything that happened in front of him challenged his basic view of martial arts. After all, his ID is Almighty Martial God, so it's normal to know a lot of things. At this moment, the fat man who just claimed to be a fan of the Almighty Martial God patted him on the shoulder and said. The corners of the coquettish assassin's mouth twitched. Is this an ID problem? In the arena, the duel between Sugu and the reincarnation of the gun god continues. As time goes by, Sugu has gradually seen through the ballistic habits of the reincarnation of the gun god. He is moving faster and faster, and the arc gun can no longer stop him from getting closer. A trace of cold sweat broke out on the forehead of the reincarnation of the gun god. He really didn't expect that cannon fodder Duan could be matched with such a master and be able to push himself to this point. Although the soul power storage of the laser gun in the left hand is not perfect yet, it can only be used now. As soon as he raised his hand to shoot, Sugu's eyes froze. He had been waiting for this opportunity. B-level combat skill, 100 steps flying sword. The alien blood alloy sword in his hand came out, like threading a needle through a thread, directly shattering the energy-charged laser gun in the gun god's reincarnated left hand. Then Sugu moved forward and grasped the hilt of the flying sword again before it fell to the ground. The long sword in his hand pointed at the neck of the reincarnation of the gun god. This battle is over. The audience outside the arena whispered. It is no longer possible for a warrior with such strength to get close to him from a distance. How could this happen? The coquettish assassin murmured. He thought the almighty martial god would win from the beginning, but the way he won was probably too different from what he imagined. What the hell are you using the sword to rearm? Ma Mingjia beside him looked proud. When he goes back, the almighty martial god will definitely gain another wave of fans. With Brother Sus' style of play, if he plays a few more times, maybe the website will be profitable. But just in the audience, waiting for the winner of the martial arts dojo to be announced, these people waited and waited but couldn't wait. What happened? The confused audience once again focused their attention on the arena. I saw Sugu pointing his sword at the neck of the reincarnation of the gun god, but his eyes showed vigilance. He was even more vigilant than when he had just faced the arc gun and energy-charged gun. Are you still going to pretend? Sugu said calmly. Pack, what to pretend? The spectators staring at the arena looked puzzled. The whole fight was just about you showing off. The reincarnation of the gun god looked at Sugu and smiled. This man is really interesting. It is estimated that when he saw himself for the first time, he saw through his disguise and judged his true martial arts profession. Therefore, even if the weapon was shot down, he did not approach rashly, but chose to maintain a certain safety position. I really didn't expect that I could meet such an interesting opponent while practicing gun fodder as a cannon fodder. Since you want to play, Grandpa, I will accompany you. The reincarnation of the gun god had tense muscles all over his body, and he, who was already tall, looked even bigger at this moment. Then he made a move that left the entire audience speechless. He threw away the two laser guns in his hands. The two silver laser guns sank quickly after getting stuck in the swamp. Has this gun god given up? The people in the audience looked at this situation and said while stroking their foreheads. It's understandable. Even with two guns, he was suppressed to this point by the almighty martial god. Now that one gun has been disabled, is there any need to watch the next battle? It's so boring that it ended like this. Long-range warriors can be said to be the most weapon-reliant of all martial arts professions. Simply giving up the weapons in your hands is almost the same as saying surrender. Then, the reincarnation of the gun god made a move that shocked everyone present. The reincarnation of the gun god was filled with soul power all over his body, concentrated on his arms, turning into soul power armor visible to the naked eye. In level combat skills, soul armor. Then he ignored the black gold knife pointed at his neck and punched Sugu directly in the face. The punch has not yet arrived, but the wind has arrived. The strong wind danced Sugu's black hair, and a fist as big as a bowl suddenly struck. Sugu tilted his head to the right and avoided the punch that hit his face. But the wind that swirled around his fist still cut his cheek and left a wound. Scarlet blood flowed into Sugu's mouth along the wound. He took a lick and looked at the enemy in front of him. Yes, this is what it looks like. The reincarnation of the gun god snorted coldly. Originally, he was planning to blow the opponent's head off with this punch to end the battle. Being able to react to a surprise attack at such a close range, this guy is indeed difficult to deal with. It is only a matter of time before you are promoted to the brave level. The reincarnation of the gun god did not stop attacking, and the next punch had already arrived. Boom! Sugu T blocked with his sword, and the next moment the fists and swords met. His body flew up on the spot like a cannonball. This monster with huge strength actually blew Sugu away with his sword. The expressions on the faces of the spectators in the auditorium froze as they looked at this scene. What happened? This battle was exciting, but the things the two warriors kept showing left these people with questions. First, they originally thought it was a heavily armored all-powerful martial god. They chose a random weapon and rolled themselves a black gold sword. I originally thought that this guy was going to kill himself with the black gold sword, but he reloaded and was very good with the sword, directly suppressing the long-range warrior. That's all. The long-range warrior who was originally in a desperate situation was reincarnated by the gunslinger and took the initiative to throw away his weapons, and then fought hand-to-hand with the almighty martial god. And what's with this exaggerated power and melee combat ability? What on earth is going on in this battle? Someone murmured. Many viewers felt that their brains were running out. This person is not a cannon fodder at all. The coquettish assassin opened his eyes wide and stared at the reincarnation of the gun god and said. When Ma Mingjie saw this, he immediately asked anxiously, "What's going on, brother, please explain." Sugu, who had just suddenly had the advantage, was suppressed, and the offensive and defensive momentum changed in an instant. This made Ma Mingjie extremely anxious. He had just established a fan website and did not want to see Sugu lose the second game. The coquettish assassin gritted his teeth and said, "Some people who want to broaden their martial arts path will choose to buy anew this situation." Ma Mingjie. That is to say, this shameless person opened a trumpet to abuse the cannon fodder, right? In layman's terms, it's like this. The coquettish assassin nodded and said. Judging from the current attack line, the true martial arts profession of this future gun god should be a berserker. The owner behind this idea is a madman. He actually uses a long-range warrior that is completely opposite to his own profession to start a new challenge. I guess he is not the kind of unknown person who can drop out of the ranks at any time in the brave ranks. When this battle is over, his real ID will be exposed, and this account will be useless. After listening to the coquettish assassin's explanation, Ma Mingjie's eyes almost popped out. The berserker can actually win 15 times in a row using a gun. Now that he has given up his gun, how strong must he be? Ma Mingjie could only clasp his hands and pray carefully for Sugu. The second opponent I was matched with in the martial arts dojo had a level higher than my own, and my brother was really unlucky. Sugu flew more than 10 meters away and landed. The reincarnated fist of the gun god struck again, and the collision between the fist and the sword actually made a violent sound of gold and iron clashing. Sugu stabilized his body and was not punched away like just now, but anyone with a discerning eye could see that he was being suppressed by the pair of fists wrapped around the soul armor. He can still hold on now, but if he can't break the situation quickly, this suppression will be like a swamp under his feet, sinking people deeper and deeper until they truly enter a deadlock. The almighty martial god's defeat has been revealed, and the outcome of this battle has been decided. This punch is as heavy as a cannonball. I can't think of how the almighty martial god can defend himself. This battle is over. This guy deserves what he deserves. He insists on random weapons. If he had used a heavy shield, he might have been able to hold on a little longer in the face of the berserker's onslaught. Now, all I can say is haha. The people in the audience shook their heads as they looked at Sugu, who was constantly being suppressed. Many people have already chosen to withdraw from the audience, and there should be no reversal in this battle. Then at this moment, the gun god was reincarnated in the gap between his fists, and a sword light flashed through. There was a bloody hole in his shoulder. The reincarnation of the gun god followed the sword light and looked at Sugu holding the sword, with a look of surprise in his eyes. Under his own suppression, he could still fight back. And what kind of combat skill was that just now? How could it be so fast? The reincarnation of the gun god endured the pain from his shoulder. Although I don't know how this guy did it, I won't be hit by the same move twice. The suppression has begun and must not stop. I am a berserker. Just when the gunman was about to ignore the wound and continue the attack. The next moment, with the same skill but in a different position, the same blood blossomed on his right leg. Call out. This time the gunslinger reincarnated without any hesitation and quickly backed away, his face full of disbelief. This guy actually saw through it and completely adapted to his own attack rhythm in such a short period of time. In the audience, the coquettish assassin also had the same expression. Why is it like this again? This reincarnation of the gunslinger has the strength of a brave man. Why is he like me? He said with some disbelief. In the last battle between him and the almighty martial god, it was the same. It seemed that all his movements were penetrated by the opponent. No matter how we organize the attack next, it will be of no use. Who are you? The reincarnation of the gun god stared at Sugu and asked coldly. Someone with this level cannot be an unknown person, but I really can't recall the corresponding name from the battle with him. Which family's hidden ace is this all-powerful god of martial arts? Sugu stood quietly, facing the enemy's retreat. He had no desire to pursue him and let him leave his attack range. And he was too lazy to answer this question. He looked at the enemy calmly. The indifferent eyes seemed to be looking at a toy that he was tired of playing with. Immediately afterwards, Sugu's sword pointed at the neck of the reincarnation of the gun god from a distance, and made a slow downward stroke. This is a classic provocative move with a simple meaning. The next move is to deal with you. The reincarnation of the gunslinger's eyes narrowed slightly, and then he laughed angrily. Was he being underestimated? Do you think you're guaranteed to win just by stabbing me twice? The reincarnation of the gun god said coldly, and then the wounds on his body began to emit clouds of steam. The two wounds where bones could be seen began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. A layer of gray fur began to grow on the gun god's reincarnated body, his ears became sharper, and his pupils changed into vertical pupils. A level superpower, animal transformation, werewolf. After activating his superpower, the gunslinger seemed to be reincarnated into a monster from ancient Western mythology. Looking at him, everyone in the audience couldn't help but widen their eyes. Anderson, he's Anderson of the Stark family. At this moment, everyone recognized his identity. This ability to transform into a beast was so expressive that only one family member in the entire human race could do it. The one who dominates the solar system and is one of the top 10 martial arts families above any federal government, Stark. This is one of their only signature abilities. This Anderson is a second-year student at Stark Family University. He entered the Brave Division in his first year. I guess this time he hopes to expand his martial arts breadth and try to hit the elite level. Soon someone found information on the internet and exposed Anderson's information. At this moment, everyone's eyes were once again on Sugu, who was confronting the monster that turned into a werewolf. Pity. Someone in the audience sighed softly. Everyone knew tacitly what he was regretting. If the almighty martial god had not easily let go of the gun god just now and refused to give him a chance to use his powers, there would still be a possibility of victory. But it's over now. This is the prestige created by the surname Stark, which has reigned at the pinnacle of mankind for hundreds of years. According to the information circulating on the internet, once Anderson uses animal transformation, not only will his body be alienated, but his body's various data will be doubled, his pain sensitivity will be reduced, and his body will have the effect of sea-level superspeed recovery. The coquettish assassin looked at the information and sighed slightly. Just looking at the description in the text, he felt a headache, and he really didn't know how to deal with this monster. Ma Mingjia next to him swallowed hard. Can that punch that can knock someone away more than 10 meters be strengthened? Ma Mingjia looked at Sugu in the arena with worry on his face. Anderson's scarlet eyes were staring at Sugu not far away. When the two looked at each other, Sugu's eyes were still so calm and indifferent. It seems that in his opinion, whether Anderson uses his powers or not, the outcome will not change. Next, I'm going to cut off your head to see if you can still pretend like this. Anderson looked at Sugu with a sinister tone. The nails on his hands turned into sharp claws. The beast's claws rubbed back and forth, making a harsh buzzing sound. Dots of sparks fell between the gaps in the claws. After saying that, the two figures disappeared at the same time, and then at the midpoint of the previous confrontation between the two, a harsh sound howled. Centered around that midpoint, the large swaths of mud in the swamp began to push apart, revealing the moist soil beneath the mud. Then came the second and third whistles. The speed of these two people was so fast that the spectators in the auditorium could no longer capture their movements with the naked eye. After dozens of howls erupted in succession, the two people who had a quick exchange finally separated. Sugu and Anderson stood back to back, who won and who lost. At this moment, everyone was looking at the scene of the arena attentively, not daring to blink at all. Look, the almighty martial god's sword is broken. A sharp-eyed spectator pointed at the different blood-black gold sword in Sugu's hand. All that was left of the long sword was the hilt, but the bone claws in Anderson's hands were intact. Even the weapons are gone, and the final winner still belongs to Anderson Stark. It is too difficult for ordinary people to defeat warriors from the 10 major families. This battle fought by the almighty martial god was exciting enough. Everyone sighed slightly. No one mocks the almighty martial god. Being able to fight like this with people from the top 10 families is enough to prove his excellence. Wait a minute, there seems to be something strange about Anderson's. At this time, the coquettish assassin looked at Anderson, who had always turned his back to everyone, and said with a frown. The assassin's keen perception allowed him to still feel the fatal threat in Sugu, but Anderson was just the opposite. Anderson slowly turned around and looked at him, and everyone's throats tightened in an instant. Section after section of the broken sword was accurately inserted into his brain, throat, heart, leg arteries and other key locations. This was enough to cause multiple fatal wounds, and because of the werewolf's high-speed regeneration characteristics, Anderson did not die immediately. Anderson turned his head and stared at Sugu's back. The broken blades inserted into his body were not destroyed by him during the confrontation with Sugu. Instead, Sugu took the initiative to damage it, and then used the broken blade to cut into his vitals, blocking the high-speed regeneration. A warrior who can use a sword like this cannot be unknown. Anderson looked at Sugu's back, trying to find some traces of the strong man in his memory. But no matter who it was, it seemed like they couldn't match it. Puff! The power of the supernatural power was finally exhausted, and the blood on Anderson's body sputtered. Until the moment he fell to the ground, he didn't recognize who was using the poker-faced ID he was fighting with. After defeating his opponent, Sugu's face remained calm, as if nothing could shake him. When the smoke and dust cleared after the werewolf fell, the mechanical judgment sound of the martial arts dojo rang. Winner. Almighty martial god. Sugu is offline. At this moment, until the two warriors disappeared, the entire auditorium of the arena was silent. Even though Anderson is just a pawn of the Stark family, he is still a member of the Stark family. The Stark who reigned at one of the pinnacles of mankind. Damn it, Sue. The almighty martial god. I just know he is the strongest. You're the King martial god. Before the audience in the auditorium could fully accept this shocking fact, Ma Mingjie took the lead in letting out bursts of cheers. He really didn't expect it. He knew Brother Su was fierce, but he didn't expect him to be so fierce. The warriors from the 10 major families have all been selected by him. Will there be anyone who Brother Su can't stand down in the future? The coquettish assassin looked at the last scene with the same disbelief. He looked at the almighty martial god who was still standing on the field and the broken sword in his hand with a look of confusion on his face. Could it be that his true martial arts profession is actually a close combat warrior? Is the heavy armor just his disguise? So what does it mean to be easily killed by his re-equipment? And can anyone really do it, balancing the two major martial arts professions? Or, as his ID said, the god of war? The coquettish assassin looked at the little fat man who was shouting beside him. After hesitating for a moment, he patted his shoulder and said, Little fat guy, please give me a flyer from your almighty God of War fan website. Moon, Stark Family University, Virtual Spiritual World Exploration Room. The outer shell of a sleeping cabin-style X device kept flashing red light, and the door opened after a moment. A white man with blonde hair, a tall build, and a shirtless body walked out of the warehouse. His face was gloomy, and it was obvious that his experience in the virtual spiritual world had put him in a bad mood. "No, I'm laughing to death. Our Stark University's best rookie last year, a super genius who became the main selection team of the solar system's high schools in his second year, and the greatest berserker in the future, Mr. Anderson, actually overturned in the cannon fodder section." A man with curly black hair and carrying a heavy fire-pattern sniper rifle pointed at Anderson and rolled on the ground laughing. When Anderson came out of the X device, Schiller, the man who had just laughed wildly, approached him, put his arm around his shoulders and said, "I just checked and found out that the person you fought with recently registered an account and logged into the virtual spirit world. He only has one battle record in the martial arts dojo, and he is a complete novice. Our school's #1 mad fighter was actually beaten to pieces by a newbie." Facing Schiller's ridicule, although Anderson looked ugly, he rarely became angry. In his mind, he was still thinking about the figure of the person who had just defeated him. "I know you admire our boss and want to develop your own talent for firearms, but there are specialties in the art industry. If you, a mad warrior, can also have excellent long-range abilities, I won't be able to mess around. Look, you who use long-range weapons can't even clean up the trash in the cannon fodder section." Schiller continued to flirt with Anderson, gushing, "Let you train well here, what are you talking about here?" A stern but clear female voice broke the conversation between Schiller and Anderson. The two of them quickly separated and stood on both sides with some restraint. Soon, a woman with silver hair and black eyes, wearing a pure white armor, came over. She has a noble temperament and wears 2 silver guns with gorgeous wolf patterns on her waist. With a lazy expression, when she looked at Schiller and Anderson, she looked like the Wolf King patrolling the pack. She is Keiwa, the captain of the two, and the woman who may inherit the position of head of the Stark family in the future. "Anderson, it is a good thing to want to expand your martial arts path, but you must also look at the compatibility of your own skills and abilities. Long-range warriors are not suitable for you. Don't waste time in the cannon fodder stage in the future. Rush to the elite stage as soon as possible. You're the only one in our team who is still in the brave stage." Kyuya looked at the X-Device warehouse with red light and immediately understood what was going on. He looked at Anderson and scolded him. Even when he was directly reprimanded by his most respected captain, Anderson remained silent. A message popped up on his account, confirming that the battle video had been sent to him, and then projected it directly on the wall. This is the tradition of many schools. After losing a battle, immediately ask teammates to help review the situation. Look at you using a long-range weapon to make me a cannon fodder. What else can you do? It's funny. With an opponent of this level, as long as you are a little more serious, can't you make a side push? Schiller said boredly. The expression on Kiwa's face became even more lazy, as if she was about to fall asleep. The cannon fodder level battle really couldn't cheer her up. Soon, Schiller frowned. "Seal your position and hit the key points. Your 6-shot pistol is pretty good. I can give you a passing grade." The next judgment was also correct. After the straight fire gun was confirmed to be ineffective against the opponent, I chose to use the arc gun to delay time and accumulate strength. Your opponent, the all-powerful god of martial arts, is pretty good at it. His trajectory at such a tricky angle is useless. Is he really cannon fodder? Watching the confrontation between the two sides, Schiller made some new judgments. It's okay, at least the opponent is a bit level. It would be a huge disgrace to the Stark family if they really lost to those average cannon fodders. Kyuya's eyelids that were about to close were slightly raised. This was not a battle that she could not stand at all. When the three saw the battle video, Anderson was forced into a desperate situation and gave up his guns at the request of his opponent and fought with his hands instead. Schiller's face changed slightly, and he couldn't help but press the pause button. "Anderson, you were defeated by your opponent in melee combat after using the frenzied fighting style?" After hearing this question, Anderson's face looked aggrieved, and he finally nodded. Kyuya looked at the battle video and held up his cheeks. Interesting. When the three of them watched the entire battle video again, the expressions on Schiller and Anderson's faces were a little complicated, while Kyuya had a vague smile on his face. She was thinking about what she would do if she stood on that battlefield and how long it would take to end the battle. Just like that, the virtual spirit world exploration room fell into silence. Finally, Anderson couldn't help but said to Schiller beside him, "Schiller, please help me check and take a look. Which family might this almighty god of war belong to? Is it the secret weapon prepared by the other 9 companies for the next martial arts competition among colleges and universities in the solar system? Hearing Anderson say this, the expression on Schiller's face became serious. If it is really related to the other 9 companies, it needs to be taken seriously. He took out his portable screen projection computer and began to search for all information related to the almighty martial god. Kyuya ended the simulated battle in his mind. He looked at Anderson and Schiller and said, "No need to check. This almighty martial god has nothing to do with the Jew family. He is probably an ordinary civilian." After hearing this, Anderson's eyes widened and he couldn't help but retort. "Boss, are you kidding me? How could there be such a person among civilians? The practice of martial arts requires a huge amount of resources, but where do civilians get the resources?" Kyuya ignored Anderson. He pulled the progress bar of the battle video back to the time when Anderson threw away the laser gun and started a frontal attack with both fists. That was the only time in the entire battle that he suppressed the almighty martial god. The suppression did not last long, and was quickly broken by the almighty martial god using a very fast mysterious combat skill. "Anderson, tell me what combat skills your opponent used to disrupt your fighting rhythm," Keiwa asked calmly. Anderson manually slowed down the almighty martial god's move countless times. Looking at the shining sword light, the expression on his face was still confused. As a member of the Stark family, he had witnessed countless combat skills since he was a child, but he really couldn't recognize the almighty god of war. "It should be some kind of newly developed A-level combat skill that I don't know about yet," he said uncertainly. Keiwa sneered and said, "Idiot, that's a C-level combat skill, Qingfeng stab. It's just that the proficiency is so frightening. It's obvious that the opponent has spent countless hours practicing this combat skill, so a change in quality leads to a change in quality. But if it were any other big family, it would be impossible for such a talented clansman to spend time practicing such shabby C-level combat skills." The expression on Anderson's face froze. C-level combat skills? Did the opponent only use C-level combat skills to achieve the effect of A-level combat skills? What a high degree of proficiency this requires. Could it be that the all-powerful god of martial arts spent several years specializing in a C-level combat skill? The boss is right. If it were someone from the other 9 families, it would be impossible for his disciple to waste time like this. But if this all-powerful god of martial arts mastered an A-level combat skill that suited him, the battle would have ended here. He had no chance to use his powers at all. I must fight this almighty god of war again. Anderson's eyes flashed with anger. He was an elite disciple trained by the Stark family. If he lost to an unknown person like this, where would he put his face? And it's not like he has no chance of winning. In this battle, he also didn't use his specialized weapons. Another fight, the outcome is unknown. Not bad, ambitious, Keiwa nodded and praised. There is no aristocratic family in history that has always been victorious and eternally undefeated. The Stark family can be defeated, but cannot be knocked down. This is the spirit passed down by their family. At this moment, Schiller, who had been looking for information about the almighty god of war, suddenly ran over and said with a strange expression, "Boss, and Anderson, look at this." Schiller sent a URL to the two of them. After Anderson clicked on it, the expression on his face immediately became extremely weird. Martial God's House, the first communication home for almighty martial god fans. What the hell is this? Cannon Fodder Duan has a fan website. Where did you find such an unlucky website? Anderson was speechless for a while, and Kyuya looked at Schiller expressionlessly to see what he was going to say. "Don't worry about what the website is. Take a look at the videos uploaded on the website," Schiller said quickly. After hearing this, Anderson turned down the page and saw 2 battle videos. One game was the one he just fought against the almighty martial god, and there was another one. After Anderson clicked on it, he looked at the opponent of the almighty martial god and saw that the opponent's ID name should be Assassin. Next is the almighty warrior as a warrior fighting an assassin? Damn it, he's got random weapons again. Is this guy crazy? Reinstall heavy equipment to fight assassins? And in this kind of terrain? Is there any mistake? It turns out that when I was fighting with myself just now, didn't the almighty martial god deliberately provoke me and target me? Is randomizing weapons his normal operation? Watching the entire video, Anderson's head is filled with questions. After seeing the victory of the almighty martial god, he was even more confused. He can defeat himself with a sword, and he can force an assassin to death with a heavy defensive shield. What on earth was the guy the first was fighting against just now? After watching this video, Kyuya's expression on the side gradually became more expressive. She was already extremely beautiful, but now she looked like a gem refracted by the sun, giving her a dazzling feeling. The level of warriors and heavy equipment is both good. Although the quality of soul power is still a bit low, this all-powerful god of war can actually ignite a sense of fighting spirit in him. Kyuya's black pupils gradually turned into a faint blue, and two will-o'-the-wisps seemed to dance in her eyes. Anderson and Schiller on the side didn't dare to breathe when they saw the captain like this. They looked at each other and prepared to sneak away quietly. The captain is the scariest at this time, so you must not attract her attention. But the two apparently ran away too late. Anderson and Schiller will practice with me in the martial arts room tonight, Kyuya said in a high-spirited tone. Do not. K. Boss, please spare my life. Anderson, the berserker of Stark University, and Schiller, the sniper, let out a wail. Starry Sky Martial Arts University, in Sugu's dormitory. Sugu took off his hood, and then another voice kept ringing in his mind. After the conscious body fought in the virtual spiritual world, you have a new understanding of martial arts. And with this insight, I completed Tian Yuan Gong. Complete one breath, Tian Yuan Gong, completion progress +7. Complete one breath, Tian Yuan Gong, completion progress +4. Su Jiyu thought to himself, sure enough, just like last time, my superpower will constantly modify the root of my soul power based on my battles in the virtual spirit world. One day, this Tian Yuan Gong will be in my hands and become completely different. And just when Su Jiyu was about to continue to adjust, the change in Zhou Tian's circulation route caused his own soul power to become disordered. Ma Mingjia ran over excitedly, holding his cell phone. Sugu, you are so popular. Your almighty martial god's ID has become popular. Ma Mingjia looked excited and waved a stack of paper information that he had just printed out in front of Sugu. The battle you just had ended in less than an hour, and it went straight to the top of the popular video list related to the martial arts dojo. In terms of combat enthusiasm, the cannon fodder section crushes all the elite sections. Many people left messages saying that this was the first time they had seen him in so many years. That's not all. Ma Mingjia put aside the data in his hand, opened the back end of the website, Martial God's Home, on his mobile phone and said, our website, without any promotion at all, received over 600,000 views within an hour, and now has more than 10,000 registered users. Advertisers have come to me and I can make money by running some ads now if I want to. Brother Su, if you continue like this, I will have to buy a new server in order to run this website before long. The little fat man became more and more excited as he talked, and started dancing as he talked. After hearing this, Sugu had a complicated expression on his face. He also opened the website and started browsing. The website that no one was paying attention to just now has more than 10,000 registered users, and they are frantically posting and discussing it. There are roughly 2 centers of topic, all related to Sugu, and one of them is about the random weapon selection. There is no doubt that this random weapon is a great tactic of Brother Wushin. In this way, the opponent's mentality is greatly unbalanced before he starts fighting, allowing Brother Wushin to seize the opportunity before he starts to attack. I don't think that's the case. It's probably a way of martial arts practice for Brother Wushin. He is exploring his own potential through this method. I think this almighty god of war is a business genius. He has earned enough traffic from 2 battles. Maybe there is a whole company behind him that operates specifically for him. Sugu looked at a group of people who might not be warriors, analyzed his actions from various angles, and then used different tricks to brag about himself. He was silent for a moment, then registered his account and posted a message. Is there a possibility that the almighty god of war opens random weapons just because he has difficulty in choosing? There are too many weapons in the martial arts dojo. Does it give him a headache? Soon, Sugu was sprayed. Do you have any brains upstairs? How could a warrior like the almighty martial god do such a childish thing? Please don't make baseless accusations. This is a gathering place for fans of almighty god of war. If you don't like it, get out. If you don't see Brother Wu Shen's great tactics, just shut up and watch and learn more. Sugu silently logged out of the account, then continued diving, and then looked at the second most noisy topic on the forum related to him. What is the martial arts profession of the almighty martial god? Does this need to be discussed? The almighty martial god must be a warrior. He killed Anderson Stark with a sword. He was a member of the Stark family. It's really not necessarily true. In the last battle, the almighty martial god's suppressive power as a heavy armor was too strong. At first glance, it is undoubtedly an old heavy armor. The charming assassin on the opposite side will be like a chicken to be killed. Ahem, I am the coquettish assassin myself. Let's discuss it, brothers. Don't bring me up to curse. I am very innocent and my psychological shadow has not healed today. I'll give my own testimony. Let me tell you how it feels to fight against the god of war. After Sugu briefly browsed the website, he turned off his phone. His heart was a little complicated now. For his behavior to attract so many people's discussion and attention, he is naturally very happy from the bottom of his heart. People are somewhat vain. But I want to be a pure warrior. Sugu shook his head helplessly. Brother Su, don't worry about this. Anyway, you don't have to worry about anything. As long as you know that this website can help us make money, it's enough. Ma Mingjia hugged Su Jiyu and said with a smile. Then, he handed over his mobile phone. Compared to the website, Brother Su, look at this. You just defeated Anderson Stark and the Stark University responded. Sugu's expression condensed slightly. Among the 10 major Stark families, he was not so arrogant as to think that Anderson could represent the level of Stark. We will not underestimate these top families, which exist longer than the history of human martial arts. He quickly found Stark University's public text response. First, they admitted that the one fighting the almighty god of war was Anderson Stark. While not avoiding his identity, he also praised the strength of his opponent Sugu in the following paragraphs. The next step is the key point. Stark University hopes that the almighty god of war will fight Anderson again, preferably in the real world. They wanted to get to know the real almighty martial god and were willing to make some investments in his martial arts path. This is the style of these big aristocratic families. Ma Mingjia said expressionlessly. After discovering the geniuses among the people, they began to find ways to contact and absorb them and let them be used for their own use. Brother Su, if you agree to go directly to the moon to contact the Stark family, you can receive a large amount of investment. In the future, you may be able to marry a collateral branch of their family and give birth to a litter of wolf pups. Hearing his good brother's words, Sugu just smiled. Although what the other party said was a bit unpleasant, it was a reminder to himself. He turned off the screen of his phone and said calmly, I'm not from the same family as those aristocratic families. No one in this world can afford to interfere with my martial arts path. Ma Mingjia smiled. His brother knew that if he took the money from the family, he would have to spit out more. That was enough. He also believed that his brother would never change his decision about the future easily. Just like when almost everyone in the school advised him to take the liberal arts exam, he still wanted to follow the path of martial arts. Mingjia, I'm going out soon. Do you want to come with me? Sugu said suddenly. How long have you been in the dormitory? Where are you going? Of course it's the 1,000-story martial arts tower where Starry Sky Martial Arts University teaches its martial arts. Sugu said with a smile on his face. Previously, he had obtained an advance entry and exit permit for the martial arts land from Jia Sanli. He can study freely there all day long. I have long heard about the Starry Sky Martial Arts University. This is the first martial arts university in mankind that was established in the Dark Ages. It has the largest collection of books on martial arts combat techniques in the world. Sugu could not wait to see its elegance. After hearing Sugu's next plan, Ma Mingjia immediately rolled his eyes and continued. No need, I'm a businessman, I'm not interested in martial arts matters. I'd better stay at home, apply for more Martial God House website accounts, and find a way to help you maintain your fans. As he spoke, Ma Mingjia buried his body in the sofa, ignored Sugu, and picked up the screen projection computer to start operating. Sugu shrugged. It was expected that his brother would say this. He himself put on a white military uniform, then he jogged towards the combat skills library alone. The Starry Sky Martial Arts University is surprisingly large. After all, it is a university that covers half of the city, but the place where martial arts is taught within the university is extremely conspicuous. It was so conspicuous that Sugu could see it as soon as he raised his head. The 1,000-story building towering into the clouds looks like a sharp sword thrust into the earth from the ground. There is the 1,000-story martial arts tower, the place where Starry Sky Martial Arts University teaches its martial arts. Until Sugu slowly ran to the entrance of the tower, he stood at the bottom of the 1,000-story tower and looked up. This was the first time he felt a sense of vastness in front of a building. "It's bigger than I expected," Sugu said with emotion. "For the first half of my life, I only studied martial arts in Hangchung No. 1 Middle School and Comprehensive High School. When I came here, I really saw the world." Just as Sugu was about to enter from the entrance, a student on duty blocked his way. After taking one look at Sugu's appearance, they said to him with smiles on their faces, "I'm sorry, classmate, you can't go in for the time being." Sugu looked at the two male students blocking him. One had a short haircut and the other had shoulder-length hair. He took out the certificate given to him by Understanding Sanli and said, "I entered the 1,000-story pagoda to practice cultivation. This is the permission given by Teacher Xie." The person blocking the road glanced at the voucher and then said calmly, "Although I have Director Xie's credentials, there are still some rules that must be observed." The gatekeeper smiled and handed over 2 pairs of bracelets and said, "Most of the people who come here are young and energetic young warriors, and many of the combat skills in the 1,000-layer martial arts tower are quite valuable, and some of them are already unique. So in order to protect the collection of combat skills, some young people who are prone to being enthusiastic should be given some exercise to avoid unnecessary losses. Every student who enters the 1,000-layered pagoda to practice must wear a gravity bracelet." "It's this again." Sugu had a strange expression on his face. He thought about how 1 month before the college entrance examination, he wore a 3-gravity bracelet to practice. As a result, he was too selfless and lost control of his strength. The police came to check the water meter. "Junior, it's not that we are making things difficult for you. This is indeed the school's rule. It will be very difficult for us if you don't abide by it." The 2 people blocking the road looked at Sugu's expression and said helplessly. Sugu recalled what Xie Sanli said to him on the floating car. "How much you can learn when entering a martial arts place depends on your own ability." Then he glanced at the pair of gravity bracelets on the hands of the 2 of them. "It seems that the reason for saying this is here." Sugu nodded and said, "Give me the gravity bracelet." Sugu took the bracelet, put it on and adjusted it to 5 times gravity. Then he walked easily into the 1,000-layered tower. Looking at Sugu's back as he walked in, the 2 gatekeepers looked at each other, then immediately took out their mobile phones and made a call. "Jung Lu, what you told me has been taken care of. The 2 broken gravity bracelets have been put on by Sugu." "Okay, don't forget what we agreed on." After hanging up the phone, the man with short hair said hesitantly, "Qian Hao, is it really okay for us to do this? The gravity bracelet given to Sugu is not detachable and will increase the gravity multiplier over time. It can increase to 20 times the gravity at most. An ordinary heavy-armed warrior, it won't be able to withstand this gravity environment for long. And there is no requirement to wear a gravity bracelet when entering the 1,000-story tower in school. There is a huge gravity adjustment room inside the 1,000-story tower. The higher you go up, the greater the gravity level you endure. I'm afraid that if Sugu stays here too long, someone will die." The student with long hair named Qian Hao sneered. "Li Chu, your courage is getting weaker and weaker. Didn't Jung Lu already give us Sugu's information? This is an orphan. When we kick him, we are kicking a piece of cotton. At that time, with the blessing of gravity, let Sugu stay in the intensive care unit for several months. What can he do to us after he comes out of the hospital?" After hearing this, Li Chu nodded with peace of mind. After hanging up the phone, Jung Lu had a sinister look in his eyes. He was always thinking about the fact that Sugu snatched away the provincial champion. In his opinion, he should be the one to enter the 1,000-story pagoda to practice, but Sugu snatched away the opportunity. This made Jung Lu, who was determined to retaliate, almost go crazy with anger every time he thought about it. "Sugu, don't think that because Zhou Zhengsheng of the army is willing to protect you, you will have nothing to worry about. Since you have chosen a university with me, in the next 4 years, I will make you regret taking away my things. First, let you be seriously injured under high gravity. Not only will you not be able to learn martial arts in the 1,000-story tower, but you will also miss the school's next freshman competition." A month later, most students have entered the state of self-discovery and have their own exercises. Star Martial Arts University will organize a competition between students, which is the school's historical tradition. At that time, many outstanding instructors will also come here to observe. If Sugu misses this opportunity, he will miss an opportunity to appear in front of many outstanding martial arts instructors in the school. Jung Lu felt slightly better when he thought that his move had directly ruined two great opportunities for Sugu. When Sugu comes out of the 1,000-story tower at the end of a few days, I have to go and see what he's doing. A cold smile appeared at the corner of Jung Lu's mouth, and he said slowly. When Sugu walked into the 1,000-story tower, the scene on the first floor made him click his tongue repeatedly. The area of more than 10,000 square meters is filled with wooden bookshelves, and naturally there are various combat skills books placed on them. Sugu made a visual inspection and found that there might be tens of millions of different martial arts books on one floor. In the central area, there is a training area that can be used by warriors of any profession, obviously for these people to practice combat skills. Sugu walked along a bookshelf and took down a combat skills book to read. And the moment Sugu was looking through the combat skills, the voice in his head started to sound. Complete one breath. Sea-level combat skill Night Rain Sword, experience plus 7-6, current combat skill proficiency is, first glimpse of the door. Complete one breath, sea-level combat skill Yeyu Sword, experience plus 109, current combat skill proficiency is, slightly successful. Complete one breath, sea-level combat skill Night Rain Sword, experience plus 97, current combat skill proficiency is, perfect mastery. Sugu stood quietly in place for 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, he had achieved perfect mastery of this combat skill. Now that I have mastered sea-level combat skills to the point of perfect mastery, there is no longer any obstacle for me. That is to say, breaking through to the point of mastering it requires hard work. Is this the benefit of improving the realm of martial arts and bringing about an improved vision? My abilities have also been improved, Sugu said calmly. Then he glanced at the sign next to him. Martial Arts 1,000-story tower. The first 600 floors are placed with sea-level combat skills for all major martial arts professions. Close black lens bracket. Floors 601 to 300 are equipped with B-level combat skills of major martial arts professions. Close black lens bracket. Floors 301 to 50 are filled with A-level combat skills from major martial arts professions. Close black lens bracket. The restricted area is after the 50th floor. Close black lens bracket. Sugu looked at the number of books on the first floor. He visually estimated that there were more than 1 million on the first floor alone. If the number of combat skills on each floor was the same as the first floor. Sugu licked his lips. When Shinkong Martial Arts University specially recruited him, the details he boasted were not lies. Even with his own powers, it is not easy to learn the ways of this place. Learning sea-level powers now will not greatly improve my combat power. Let's go to a higher area. Sugu didn't hesitate and took the elevator directly to the 50th floor of the 1,000-story tower. The moment he stepped out of the 50th floor of the 1,000-story tower, Sugu felt his breath hitched. He felt here, feeling that every drop of blood in his veins became heavy, and the bones of his body were compressed in an extruder. On the 50th floor, a man with a handsome face and a cold temperament frowned slightly when he looked at Sugu. In the 1,000-story tower of Shinkong Martial Arts University, the gravity level will increase with each floor. Learning A-level combat skills in the uppermost area will have to withstand 30 times the gravity. Every year, some desperate people come up and are almost crippled on the spot. Not only wasting the opportunity to come in and learn, but also wasting other people's time to save people. Do I have to stop training to help get this guy to the hospital? When the man thought of this, a trace of irritation appeared on his handsome face. At this moment, blood began to flow from Sugu's pale face, and his strange expression began to return to normal. How could he adapt to an environment with 30 times gravity so quickly? The expression on the handsome man's face was a little surprised. He watched Sugu's frowning eyebrows relax slightly. Not bad, it seems like I won't waste my time. Sugu curled his lips at the side. He didn't expect that Shinkong Martial Arts University would have such high requirements for students' personal qualities. Not only is it required to wear a gravity bracelet to enter the 1,000-story tower, but there is also a gravity device on the upper floors. Under the superposition of double gravity, even Sugu took a little more time to adapt before he could move in this space. Feng Yan. At this moment, the handsome man raised his chin towards Sugu. Saying your name is like saying hello. Sugu was stunned for a moment when he heard the other party's voice, and then smiled. Sugu. After Feng Yan glanced at Sugu, he refocused his attention on the combat skills he was learning. It seemed that the greeting he just exchanged with Su Jiyu had consumed all his interest. Su Jiyu smiled sarcastically. He didn't care about the other party's arrogant attitude. This is a place of cultivation, not a social place. Who has time to care about others? After readapting to the gravity of the 50th floor of the 1,000-story tower, Sugu moved his muscles a little, feeling a little emotional in his heart. It's so heavy, it feels like there's a mountain pressing on my head. After confirming that there was no abnormality in his body, Sugu passed by Feng Yan, and he quickly walked to a bookshelf of combat skills books. Sugu casually took a combat skill in his hand and read it carefully. When he finished reading that combat skill, he closed the book. He began to simulate this combat skill in his mind, and how it would look like when he used it. Combined with his breathing in and out, the proficiency of this combat skill in his mind began to rise rapidly. Complete one breath. A-level combat skill. Fuzzy Self-Taoist. Experience plus 1-3. Current combat skill proficiency is first glimpse of the door. Complete one breath. A-level combat skill. Confucius Self-Taoist. Experience plus 3-4. Current combat skill proficiency is first glimpse of the door. Complete one breath. A-level combat skill. Master Self-Taoist. Experience plus 1-1. Current combat skill proficiency is slightly accomplished. When the proficiency is slightly improved by Sugu's superpower, the experience gained from each breath begins to decrease. After all, it is an A-level combat skill, and it requires some opportunities to master it perfectly. Just like when I was in the martial arts exam, I fought with the aliens in the starry sky to break through the lion's roar and 10,000 tigers' blade. Sugu chuckled. Although it took 15 minutes to improve the proficiency of a combat skill to a moderate level, Sugu was already very satisfied. You must know that this is an A-level combat skill. If the proficiency is high enough, it can be a killer even in the Seeking Me realm. During the martial arts test, Sugu was able to use the lion's roar 10,000 tigers' blade to kill the aliens in the starry sky across borders. And Sugu looked at the number of A-level combat skills stored in front of him, which was as numerous as the stars, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The quality is not enough, I'll make up the quantity first. First learn as much as possible, and then slowly improve through hard work. Anyway, with my superpowers and the combat skills in my hands, there will always be a time when they will transform. My personal abilities will definitely improve in all aspects here. Sugu once again took out a combat skill. Complete one breath. A-level combat skill. Pulse cutting method. Experience plus 2-3. Current proficiency is slightly improved. Complete one breath. A-level steps. Frequency conversion steps. Experience plus 3-1. Current proficiency level is slightly improved. Complete one breath. He didn't know how many combat skills books he had read. Sugu rubbed his sore eyes and stretched. There happens to be a practical area on each floor for students to practice what they have learned. Let's go there and have a look. When Sugu stood up from the ground, he looked at the area where he had just been sitting and frowned slightly. There was a pit where he had been sitting just now. Sugu shook his shoulders. I wonder if it was his imagination, but he felt that the gravity magnification nearby began to increase again. A trace of doubt flashed through his heart, but Sugu ignored it. Anyway, he had adapted to the environment. The top priority now is to practice. Sugu walked quickly towards the center, the actual combat training area, but as soon as he arrived at that area, he saw a figure. Sugu was slightly surprised. He really didn't expect to see Feng Yan here again. Although they are on the same floor, the space on each floor of the 1,000-story tower is comparable to that of a large national-level stadium. Coupled with the staggered layers of bookshelves that house combat skills, the layout here looks like a maze. It is a kind of fate that the two of them can meet again here. After Feng Yan glanced at Su Jiyu lightly, he didn't pay attention to him. Then in front of Sugu, he began to practice several combat skills he selected. Sugu glanced at the opponent's practice and shook his head slightly. Even though he only glanced at it briefly, he could tell that Feng Yan only remembered the movements of the combat skill in his hand and then reluctantly performed it. It only has its shape but not its meaning. Feng Yan noticed Sugu's gaze and snorted coldly. Apparently, the feeling of being watched while practicing combat skills made him quite unhappy. You, a person who almost lacked oxygen after stepping into the gravity zone, how can you have the nerve to point next to me? Sensing the other party's displeasure, Sugu shrugged and then casually found another place to practice. Frequency conversion step, swayed out from Sugu's feet casually. The combat skills that were originally practiced in his mind were now performed with his own body, making Sugu feel a sense of relief. But soon he noticed something strange. Because of the unusually strong gravity on his body, Sugu's body always felt sluggish when completing the actions instructed by his brain. In such an environment, every step Sugu took failed to meet the standard in his heart. How to maintain combat effectiveness in this environment? How to connect the combat skills you just learned and integrate them into your own combat system? When Sugu kept thinking about these questions, he entered a state of selfless flow. Feng Yan, who was practicing by himself on the side, had stopped practicing without knowing it. He looked at Sugu, his pupils contracted slightly. He was obviously learning A-level combat skills at the same time, and he even started earlier. Why was this guy named Sugu so much more proficient than him? He even felt that the combat skills Sugu was using had reached the level of proficiency that could only be glimpsed. Having achieved this level of A-level combat skills, they can already be used in actual combat. Is it possible that the combat skills this person is practicing now are not actually the ones he just learned? But it's because you've always been able to do it, and now you're showing off in front of yourself? Feng Yan couldn't help but think so, but soon, he gave up this speculation. Because of Sugu's state, he was so focused on the horror of martial arts that even when he stopped practicing and stared at him, he failed to notice it, or it could be said that he noticed it and ignored it subconsciously. Feng Yan only occasionally entered this state of cultivation. When he thought back on it at that time, he just felt that time passed so quickly, and he had no time to think about trivial matters other than martial arts. Being able to enter this kind of cultivation state under high gravity, Starry Sky Martial Arts University is really a crouching tiger, hidden dragon. Feng Yan said to himself. It seems that I have underestimated the heroes of the world. He couldn't help but compare himself with Sugu to see who was stronger. Obviously what the opponent is doing now is integrating the newly mastered combat skills into his own combat system. What a terrifying talent, Feng Yan sighed. But at the same time, Sugu felt obvious dizziness after entering the high-gravity area. It was obvious that I had the upper hand in terms of physical strength. I don't know what his superpower is. While Feng Yan was thinking, Sugu finished practicing the variable frequency step. Practicing combat skills in the gravity zone is much more tiring than normal. Sugu gasped slightly and said, but in this environment, the experience increase every second is more than under normal circumstances. It seems that practicing under high gravity can suppress the potential of oneself and supernatural powers. After writing this down, Sugu prepared to practice the next combat skill. At this moment, a round black shadow was thrown in his direction. Sugu subconsciously caught the thing and took a closer look to see that it was a military green kettle. He looked puzzled at Feng Yan, who threw him a kettle, and the other person smiled peacefully at him. No longer as arrogant as when they first met. I've been practicing for so long. Let's take a sip of water. Let's get to know each other again. My name is Feng Yan.